Hello and welcome to the 13th Lenovo Gulf 12-hour race here from the beautiful Yas Marina Circuit. Nighttime has fallen in the last half an hour, darkness and floodlights all around this beautiful circuit. Engines firing up in the background because we're about to get qualifying underway, and we have 4 segments of 15 minutes of qualifying coming up to savour and look forward to. Also, of course, not just the Lenovo Gulf 12 hours, but it incorporates the final round of the Intercontinental GT Cup powered by Pirelli. A mouth-watering race in prospect tomorrow, a mouth-watering qualifying session in prospect now. Local time, just gone 10 minutes to 6 in the evening. Wherever you are around the world, you are very welcome. Let's settle down and look forward to a thrilling qualifying session, and to guide you through all of it in the commentary box, Mark Werrell and David Addison.
Alan, thank you very much. Welcome everybody to qualifying then for the Lenovo Gulf 12 hours. It's also a round of the Intercontinental GT Challenge powered by Pirelli, and it is a race with a fantastic entry. It always produces plenty of interest, this race, because of the length, because of the nature of it with Pro-Am and Am category cars. And Mark, not only is it a race in isolation, but of course it is a championship deciding round of Intercontinental GT Challenge powered by Pirelli.
Absolutely, and every single category within the Intercontinental GT Challenge powered by Pirelli is still up for grabs. So the main driver's title, the Independence Cup, and of course the all-important manufacturer's title, with just 9 points separating BMW from Mercedes. So they've really brought the big guns out for this one. But before we talk a little bit more about qualifying, let's get somebody who everybody knows well around the world, Valentino Rossi, to show us around a lap of Yas Marina.
Ciao a tutti, I'm Valentino Rossi, and we will do a lap together in the Yas Marina Circuit with my BMW M4. The front straight is quite fast. You arrive with the 5th gear to the turn 1. Turn 1 is hard braking from the straight, and is a 90 degrees corner on the left that you do with turn. It's very important the exit, because you bring in the turn 2 and 3 that you do with the 4th gear, and is a very fast chicane where you have to cut on the curbs and try to open the throttle as soon as possible. After you arrive to the turn 5 is a new corner of the circuit. The new layout is a big hairpin that you do with the second gear. And also here is very important the acceleration, because this brings on the first part of the long straight, where you arrive with the 6th gear and you brake around 150 for the chicane. Left and right, very tight. You can use also the 1st gear or the 2nd, and you need to don't enter too fast, because it's important the exit. Because bringing the second half of the long straight, you arrive another time with the 6th gear, and you arrive to the turn 9. That is a big left corner, very long, that we have in 2 parts, 2 apex to the acceleration. And after, from here, you arrive in the section 3, that is the more tight and difficult, because you have this double right in braking, where it's very easy to lose the rear. And you arrive after a right corner in the double left under the hotel, 2nd and the 3rd gear. Here you need to open the throttle very early and to let the car going. And you arrive in the last part. For the double right, the first one is fast, is the 4th gear, and the second one is difficult, the 2nd, because it's more tight. And after you are another time on the front straight, ready for another lap. So, ciao a tutti ragazzi, and enjoy.
So there's your lap around this fantastic Yas Marina circuit. 5.28 kilometres, 3.28 miles. And Valentino Rossi knows this circuit well, Alan, because it's not his first visit to the Gulf 12 hours. He has been a winner here in his class before and has been on the overall podium.
Sometimes there are drivers or riders in the world of motorsport that bring goosebumps to you down the arm, up the neck, down the back, wherever. Having Valentino Rossi on the podium here, and his podium celebrations just a few years ago, was something to savour. I wonder if we're going to have something like that again this weekend.
It is very possible, that is for sure. Valentino will, of course, drive number 46, his regular number, the BMW that he shares with Dries Van Thor and Nick Yellowly, who, of course, has spent his year driving against WRT for Rover Racing. So he knows the car, but he's not that used to the team. The sister car, number 32, the regular WRT favoured number, Philippe Eng, who again has been a Rover Racing driver, and he's second in the championship to Jules Gounon, sharing with Sheldon van der Linde, making his debut here, and Charles Weerts, who is a former Formula 4 United Arab Emirates champion. So he has experience of the circuit in a different type of racing car. The fast lane is open for the first part of qualifying. It's rounded up as a single session, but it exists in 4 parts. And the first part, of course, is going to be the emptiest because there aren't that many cars with 4 drivers. So in terms of actual clear track space, this is the one time to be out there. It gets busier as the session unfolds. Unlike most IGTC races, the way this operates is that you've got drivers 1, 2, 3 and 4, but then you run qualifying in the opposite direction. So Q1, as it were, is driver 4, and you can work the rest out from there. But driver 1 goes in the 4th part of qualifying, and it means here that the AM and Pro-Am cars with 4 drivers take centre stage. So it'll be a relatively quiet circuit.
Yeah, absolutely, because if you're in the Pro category, you can only have a maximum of 3 drivers, so they won't be taking part in this first aspect of qualifying. But once it comes to driver 2, 3 and 4, then they will all be heading out there. We mentioned that, there's only 9 points in terms of the Intercontinental GT Challenge powered by Pirelli, which forms part of this Lenovo Gulf 12 hours. It goes to show the seriousness in which the manufacturers take it as well, because BMW and Mercedes-AMG only separated by, 9 points coming into this one. So it's no wonder they have scooped up most of their works drivers and brought them into this event. And as you alluded to earlier on when it was free practice, to split them across the cars to give themselves the best possible chance to try and lift that title.
Yeah, because if one, BMW or Mercedes, for example, has a problem, then you've got another one. And, of course, the manufacturers, yes, they want their drivers to win. They want a drivers' champion, but they also want to be the winning manufacturer as well. So it's doubly important for them. Kurt Mollican's in the white shirt in the background at WRT, good racer himself many years ago. And the team's now getting themselves set, ready to release the cars. Valentino Rossi staring at the data. As we say, he knows this circuit well, but it's the first time he's raced the BMW here. But it's not that long ago that he had Ferrari outings. It was a Kessel Ferrari he was due to race until he was unable to travel back for the 2022 event, and then the start of that year, because we had 2 in that year, the January race, and then he was quickly announced as an Audi WRT driver that season, and now a WRT BMW driver. The queue at the end of the pit lane starts to grow, and very shortly cars will be released, which will include the sole Audi in the entry, the Haas RT entry, which is the Audi R8 LMS GT3 of Greg Gilbert, Milka Panu, Xavier Knauf and Greg Servet. The Haas is Sandrine Haas, former Formula 1 photographer, and Chris de Donker, who is the other half of the team. They've done lots of the Creventic 24-hour series races this year and come to the Gulf 12 hours with Greg Gilbert, a very rapid driver, good GT4 champion, Peugeot champion. And he'll be another man to watch when he gets behind the wheel of that car.
Yeah, he's done beautifully well, hasn't he? Last couple of seasons in both in GT4, and he'll be looking to try and see what he might be able to do in this. You're busy giggling away at the Kangaroo on the side of the Grove Racing Porsche.
It could only be the Groves. It could only be an Australian car, and Stephen and Brenton Grove share this with an honorary Aussie, but really a Kiwi, Richie Stanaway, who of course was briefly an Aston Martin WEC GT racer, and the Groves are also fighting for IGTC points. Stephen Grove is 3rd in the Independent Cup within IGTC, the Intercontinental GT Challenge powered by Pirelli. And they are not only proud Aussies, but also inveterate Porsche enthusiasts. Stephen Grove, Brenton, his son. It was a Grove Porsche that won the GT Cup within the FIA Motorsport Games last year when Matt Campbell drove it. Right, qualifying is underway then. Part 1, 15 minutes. And although these times are going to be of interest, and we'll briefly sort the order as we start to go through, just to make the point, and we'll do it again, I'm sure, that it's the average of the drivers you're taking, whether it's 3 or 4. So there is the 15-minute part in isolation to look at an order, but that's going to be different from the average.
and that could vary dramatically, couldn't it? Depending on the Pro and the Pro-Am combinations that we've got, then yeah, all of the Pros you'd expect to all be within a whisker of each other. Where you've got the Pro-Am combinations, the time to find is in the AMs, and that's what all of these free practice sessions building up to this has been, to get the AM comfortable in the car, working in conjunction with the Pro drivers to make sure that they can maximise the speed and the pace out of the car as an amateur driver. That's where you find the times in these Pro-Am combinations.
It is, but also the Pros in those Pro-Am cars will contribute hugely to where the car is at the pointy end of the grid, and we had it at Spa, for example, we've had it elsewhere, so it's going to be a very, very interesting grid based on what those Pros within Pro-Am entries can do. So the 3 driver cars sit and wait, others out on track. We've got another of the McLarens, I think they're just venturing down the pit lane, ready to go. And as the road starts to get a little bit busier, we'll ignore the out lap, then they'll have a start-up lap and then a proper flying lap from where we'll start to get times. Porsche number 7 from Herbert Motorsport is another one that we'll see from Q2 onwards.
Of course, they're all running the controlled Pirelli tyres, David, the tyre that was introduced at the beginning of last year. And on the basis of you've got the out lap to do, which is 2 minutes, and then a flying lap is sort of 1 minute 50, let's say 1 minute 52. You're only going to get 5 or 6 laps in. The Pirelli tyre, from your experience with the GT World Challenge Europe, it switches on quite quickly, doesn't it? There's quite a narrow window of sweet spot. Yeah,
and I'm racking my brains. With the exception of Super Pole at Spa, we don't normally do qualifying after 6 o'clock. You know, it's I know IGTC is different from World Challenge Europe, but same time, same cars and so on. But you know, normally for a European race, you're qualifying at 9 o'clock in the morning.
Yep.
It's very rare that we have an evening qualifying session like this, and in these temperatures as well, because even though it's evening, it's still t-shirt and shorts weather.
It is, absolutely.
Outside here in Abu Dhabi. So, yeah, this is something else the teams have got to factor in. They have had night practice, so they are used to running in these conditions, but of course now it gets more serious, and the track is well rubbered in, because not only have they had more GT3 mileage, but we've had a couple of Renault Clio sessions and a race as well from then, so a little bit more rubber has been put down. But yeah, it should switch on round about lap 3 of the session. What you don't necessarily want to do is be out there taking the checkered flag. If you can get the run done before the flag, you're buying yourself another couple of minutes by coming in. You're in the pits when the checkered flag comes out. You don't have to do that lap. You don't have to do an in lap. It means you've got more time to sort out anything, make any adjustments, and get your next driver in and settled. So it could be, again, towards the end of the 15 minutes that it's an empty track, and that backs up your point that within the 15 minutes, you've probably got 6, 7, 8 at the most, where you've actually got proper mileage.
Absolutely, and of course, you know, if you can get that lap in early, you save just a couple of extra laps on the tyre, and they're all limited come tomorrow's race, and for this qualifying session, 18 sets of tyres, so they are limited to the amount of tyres that they can utilise over the course of the whole weekend. So flying laps starting to come in, lights ablaze as the number 25 AF Corsa Ferrari heads in towards the heavy braking area. That is going to be Alessio Rivera, who is out for the first part of this session. He was one of the drivers we're talking about in free practice. Could be one to watch out for in that car.
Interesting choice that, because you know the car's at its heaviest now, but he will make a difference. And maybe the plan is to offset the lack of pace with a slightly heavier fuel load against the fact that the road is going to be so clear that there's an absolutely limited chance of him being held up. So maybe that's the trade-off that the AF Corsa team have decided with that car. Get him out, set the time, but do it when the road is clear, and that compensates for the fact that the car's a bit heavier.
The first time has come in, and it's coming from the number 2 Audi of Xavier Knauf, and that is a 1 minute 56.385, but that's just the first flying lap. We're expecting the times to tumble down further from there. We've also got the Garage 59 McLaren in the hands of British driver Mark Sanson out there and going well, but Alessio Rivera at the moment is just about to turn his way up towards, where is he at the moment, turn number 12, I think that will be. He'll just be working his way through, and then from there, no, it's actually turn number 16, the final corner, heads out of the final corner, over the start-finish line, and already of the 15 minutes, there's only 10 remaining. And where does Alessio Rivera go as he heads through? He will be starting the flying lap this time through.
Yeah, he's slightly out of sequence, isn't he, against the others. The team's looking at all of this with their virtual onboards and the data coming back into the teams. Forget toolkits, bank of computers, that's what you need for a race team these days. Looking into WRT, Charles Weerts with the headset on, and Dad Yves leans over. Of course, very key investor within WRT as part of his group of companies, and Yves Weerts will settle himself down in a moment, no doubt, watch the session, as now we are starting to see improved lap times. Number 79, the Tsunami Porsche. Johannes Zelger at the wheel of it has now done the gun time, a 1 minute 56.490. And there is Alessio Rivera, and this is the lap that we're anticipating great things from in number 25. And he's delivering in the first sector at least.
He certainly is, yeah. He's gone absolute best through the first sector, 23.144 seconds through the first third of the lap as the speeds start to build, and he'll head his way up towards the newly reprofiled turn number 9. That was reprofiled a couple of years ago now, far more banked than it was. It's doesn't continue the straight quite as long, but he's nice and neat and tidy out of turn number 9. Then up into the sweeping section as you flick your way through the right-hander at 10 and then up to 11 and then in towards a heavy braking area for turn number 12, which will bring him up towards the W Hotel. Underneath the hotel he goes, up towards turn number 14. A bit of traffic to compromise the tail end of the lap, but the second sector, David, was an absolute best as well.
Yeah, 2 purples, so aligning the cherries on the fruit machine, as it were, here. The slot machine looking good for him. But you're right, it's the traffic ahead that might just do for him, and having said that maybe the plan was to get him out when the road was empty, he has come across a Ferrari in the way. He will go though to the top of the times. The lap is a 1:51.453, the best of the weekend thus far, but this lap's a write-off because he's still stuck behind Axel Jeffries in the Ferrari. Now Jeffries is very quick under normal circumstances, so as long as he's doing a proper pace now on a flying lap, Rivera's bailed anyway, look, because you can see the gap open up. Axel Jeffries, the Zimbabwean driver, starts to press on, but Alessio Rivera realising that being stuck behind him wasn't going to help, so he's let him go, and he will possibly fight again. He's got time left for one more run, I would have thought, but it's going to be the next lap. 33 Porsche will go out in the next session.
Eddie Cheever, the number 93 Sky Tempesta McLaren, over the start-finish line and goes second quickest with a 1:51.540, but for the car that we had been concentrating on in the hands of Axel Jeffries, he is at the moment still trying to slot in his first flying lap. Alan is down there in the pit lane. No, apologies, I thought I'd heard Alan wanted to come in down there in the pit lane.
It wasn't, but I can talk to you and ask you the question. While these early segments are happening for qualifying, there are drivers in garages, and I can very happily have a conversation to one or two of them with a sort of an overview of the look forward to the race, if you like.
Absolutely. Definitely.
Okay, I shall do exactly that.
Okay. Sky Tempesta might be a good place to head, because Eddie Cheever, as Mark was saying, has gone second, and that's the highest place thus far of the IGTC registered cars. Axel Jeffries might be an interesting one here come the end of the lap, because as I say, we know that he's rapid. This is going to be the first proper lap that we see. He's not gone purple anywhere, but it should put him there or thereabouts, to use that awful phrase. Comes over the timing line, breaks the beam, and goes third fastest, so that lap was a 51.6, a couple of tenths down on Alessio Rivera's earlier absolute best. Rivera goes through again. That lap was a 58. We know he'd backed out of it, but the next one has got to count.
The next one certainly has to count for him, and it certainly looks as though he's pressing on this one. And keep an eye also on what Eddie Cheever is doing at the wheel of the number 93 Sky Tempesta McLaren, second quickest in the session, but he's gone quicker than he's previously gone through the first sector, and he's done an absolute best through the second sector of it, so he could be heading up towards very much the sharp end, and he's about to come through any second now and complete the lap. So over the start-finish line comes the 93 car, and the time from Eddie Cheever is sadly 4 tenths slower, and it was all to do with the final sector. Just didn't quite get it right.
Yeah, slightly odd, but of course it's not the end of the world. He's got 3 co-drivers to help bring that car up the order. Eddie, I think, is one of those drivers that probably doesn't get the credit he deserves. He had a big reputation from racing Ferraris all around the world, successfully so, but with Sky Tempesta he's adapted to Mercedes, he's adapted to McLaren, he had a spell in the Euro NASCAR style racing as well, but because he's never really been in a pro GT entry, flies under the radar. Another awful phrase, but you take my point. But he's a very, very rapid driver indeed, and you don't often find him off the road either. He doesn't make terribly many mistakes, Eddie Cheever, so Eddie Cheever the third, very quick driver indeed, the Italian-American. Right, 51 Ferrari has got Alex Fox at the wheel. That was a car that in the most recent free practice session, Mark, was in a bit of strife.
It was, yeah. It had what we thought was a puncture that caused a spin, but the car was stricken out on circuit, and even with the puncture, he couldn't drive the car back. Well, we don't know whether it was cause or effect, but it would appear there was also issues with trying to get that car into a neutral gear. So whether it was a gearbox issue that caused the rears to lock and caused the puncture, or the opposite way round, we simply don't know. But it was quite strange because they brought the car back on a flatbed, back into the pit lane area after an extended full course yellow. But very quickly the car was back out in that free practice session. All seems to be going well now, though, for them. So they're making up for the time they lost in free practice earlier on.
Indeed so, and Alex Fox carrying on, although other drivers did lose track time in that earlier session. We've got less than 5 minutes to go now, so we're almost at the end of the first part of qualifying. And the chicane then at the back straight goes Alex Fox. Alessio Rivera quicker again, a 1 minute 50.734. So I think I said earlier on he was a man to watch. He's living up to his bill matter, isn't he? So fastest now, and the margin that he's got, round about half a second over Axel Jeffries, who's now second. Eddie Cheever is third, and Philip Ellis, we've not really touched on, the Anglo-Swiss-German driver, but he's up into fourth in the times.
Yeah, that's the number 75 Sun Energy car that he shares with Kenny Harble, Martin Conrad, and the very rapid Dominic Baumann we'll see out in that car. I imagine Dominic will probably take over that car for the final part of qualifying. Now, the number 59 car that we're looking at now, that's the Garage 59 car in the hands of British driver Mark Sansom, making his debut at the Gulf 12 Hours. He was very happy with the layout of the circuit and was thoroughly enjoying his time here. Well, he's enjoying his time out on circuit as well. That car is currently fifth quickest in the hands of Mark Sansom, 1 minute 54.631. Shares the car with the Gota brothers, Benjamin and Oliver, and also shares the car with his Barwell Motorsport teammate, but on the opposite side of the garage from this year, Sean Balfe. So Mark pressing on, and sector times at this stage, not suggesting he's going to improve this time through at the moment.
So just under 3 minutes, time for 2 flying laps depending on track position at the moment, and it remains Alessio Rivera the fastest from Axel Jeffries, Eddie Cheever. I think there's more to come possibly from Philip Ellis. Fourth fastest, Mark Sansom fifth, Johannes Zelger sixth, but in the pits you've just seen the very colourful Tsunami RT CLRT Porsche. In has come Alessio Rivera, so doing what I was predicting, people would bail early, having done the run, and then have the extra time to get the next driver settled into the car.
He's 0.6 of a second quicker than anybody else, isn't he, in this session at the moment, Alessio Rivera, which bodes well again if his co-drivers can all stitch up the lap time. Going back to Mark Sanson as he just exits turn 14 and up towards turn number 15, where many cars have been done for track limits because they come up towards turn 15 and use a bit too much of the runoff area to try and make it not quite as acute, the angle into 16, which is the final corner. But for Mark Sanson, sector times up on one, down on the other, down on another, and the lap time does not improve. That was a 1:54.6 at 6.1. His best is a 1:54.631, so 30 thousandths shy of his best time in the session.
We've had an incident between Axel Jeffries and Wayne Mars in the number 76 Mercedes, which the officials have noted. Philip Ellis is another one that bails for the pit lane with just over a minute and a half of the session to go. Eddie Cheever is in as well, so the road is becoming very, very quiet, but the pit lane gets busier as not only do you have the fresh driver getting aboard those cars, but you've also got driver 3 getting on board the cars that have yet to venture out. Number 51 of Alex Fox goes by again, but doesn't improve. Oh, sorry, I'll tell you a lie. Does improve, but stays 14th, the foot of the times.
14 cars out in this session. We'll see the full 26 out from now on in reality. So for the cars that are still out there, any sort of improvements possible? Yes, fifth quickest, Mark Sanson, the Garage 59 McLaren. He's gone through the first sector quicker than he has previously gone. Also, the number 61 AF Corsa Ferrari of Jean-Claude Sauder has also gone through the first sector quicker. And also, it looks as though Anton Diaz Pereira, at the wheel of the number 11 Kessel Racing Ferrari, he might have been a little bit slower through the first sector, but he was certainly quicker through the second sector. So he could well be on for an improvement here as he turns his way up towards turn number 9. All's looking good at the moment. Down on the first sector, not by much, up on the second.
But realistically, I don't think Jean-Claude Sauder would be anticipated to be on the pace of an Alessio Rivera or an Axel Jeffries or an Eddie Cheever, would he? He's an experienced Ferrari and indeed Lamborghini competitor. No further investigation needed for the Jeffries-Mars incident, so that goes away. And heading that up towards the end of the lap comes the number 61 Ferrari. One more corner to go. Does stay out though, so although he will take the flag on the track, let's see what the lap time is. It should be an improvement, but not missed out by just over a 10, so a wasted lap in a sense. And now you've got the in-lap, which takes another couple of minutes away from the time the team would have ordinarily before the start of the next session. So goes back to my point about why these teams have come in early. Look, they've already got the next driver is in. take the time, no fuss, it's all done, and with the minimum of drama, 93 is ready to go.
Alan? Sorry, no, I thought I heard Alan again in the pit lane. I noticed one driver did improve on that last lap, still remained 5th quickest, but Mark Sampson at the wheel of the Garage 59 McLaren, 154.279 from him, and that was all to do with the first sector. He was slightly slower in Sector 2 and Sector 3. It was the improvement in the first sector that netted him an improved lap time, but still keeps that car 5th after the first session, with the checkered flag now out, and only, another 4 or 5 cars still out on circuit.
Eddie Cheever under track limit review at turn 50, which is one of the 2 real key areas that wind up the race officials there, because if you get a really good wide run and maintain momentum, it gives you a better run, of course, into turn 16, and you need that for a good launch over the start and finish line. Wayne Mars will be another one to take the flag on the track rather than in the pit lane in the number 76 Mercedes that goes through, and that lap time was no better.
No.
So in some cases you could argue it's relevant for mileage. There's another school of thought that says, well, yeah, but for 12 hours, a grid position, what relevance is it? Well, as long as you keep out of trouble on the first lap, that's true to a point. The driver that takes pole position will tell you how important it is. The driver that misses out on pole by a 10th tells you it's of no importance at all because it's 12 hours. I think that's called ego, isn't it? Or pride.
So, waiting for last couple of cars to head over. Go on. So we're waiting for the last couple of cars to come over the start-finish line, but whilst we're waiting to run you down through the order after Q1, let's head down to the pit lane. Alan Hyde's found somebody to chat to.
I have, and I've just realised that it is an incredibly hot day today, isn't it? That's hard work.
Yeah, it's actually not that hot in the car.
Is it not?
No, it's quite good. So I don't want it to get hotter, but it's not bad.
No, it's been unseasonably warm this week for this place.
Yeah, for sure. Compared to Europe right now, it's really hot, but it's quite pleasant to be here in the sun instead of being in rainy Europe.
I couldn't agree more, I have to say. It's a lovely way to end the season, really, isn't it, this event?
Yeah, it's always a pleasure to come here at the end of the season, to end up the season. This year was quite a good year for us, and hopefully we end up on the good finish here.
Well, you've started pretty well, Eddie. That was all right, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was okay. I mean, the second lap I had a little bit of traffic. It's a shame, but I mean, it's a 12-hour race. It doesn't really matter too much qualifying.
As far as something we just heard from race control, they're just having a look at track limits. This is one of those circuits where that's a very easy thing to fall foul of, isn't it?
Yeah. You can have a lot of track limits here. It's going to be important not to have them in the race, but I don't think I went off on my good lap, so I'm quite confident I'll keep the lap.
Well, that's good news. Good start for the weekend, Eddie. Thanks for talking to us.
Thank you.
Eddie Cheever for Sky Tempesta Racing, the car run by Garage 59, the Alexander West, Chris Goodwin, Andrew Cocotti team. And Eddie making the point they've had a good year in Europe. They have. Of course, they switched to McLaren for this equivalent race last year after a horrible season with a Mercedes AMG that we normally talk about being bulletproof USB stick style cars.
Yep.
I think they went through 3 different teams, and none of them brought any better fortune to Sky Tempesta Racing, and Chris Froggatt by the end of the year had rather lost patience and went to McLaren, and they have had a far better season, but quite what they did to get all the Mercedes AMG bad luck last year remains a mystery to all.
He also had a very good season in the International GT Open, didn't he, as well, where he secured the Pro-Am Championship there, so yeah, he's already claimed 1 championship this year, Eddie Cheever. So all of the cars trundling their way down the pit lane. Alessio Rivera was the quickest of all in the number 25 Ferrari. Second quickest was the number 26 Ferrari of Axel Jeffries. Third was the man we've just spoken to, number 93, Eddie Cheever,
who has had a lap deletion confirmed by race control. I'm not saying it was his best lap, because he is still third in the times, but a lap deletion for one of the laps has been confirmed by race control.
It still keeps him third, that's the good thing. Fourth at the moment is 75, which is the Sun Energy Mercedes of Philip Ellis. Fifth was 59, Garage 59, Mark Sampson, and sixth was Tsunami. Seventh place was AF Corsa, eighth place was Kessel Racing, ninth was the Audi of Haas RT, and then completing the top 10 was Car Collection Motorsport. We'll do it all again very shortly. 11th was AF Corsa, 12th was the number 76 Mercedes, 13th was MP Racing, 14th was the last of the cars in that session at least, which was the number 51 car of AF Corsa. So it's sort of Alt-Control-Delete, reset again, and we do it all again now with a different batch of drivers and a busier track.
Busier track indeed. So in just over 4.5 minutes' time, when the lights will go green at the end of the pit lane, and as we've made the point, you start now taking the times in isolation, and that's all exciting for that part of qualifying, but it's the average that's going to affect the grid. And of course, if there are any penalties post-session, like a grid drop, that's got to be factored in as well. But hopefully we won't get to that point, and there'll be fewer dramas that might do that. Track limits, though, is going to be the big factor. It's a long lap, as Mark has already made the point, but we've already seen people losing lap times, and if they start to be the very good laps, then it's going to affect things. You've had in the past instances where somebody basically wants to do one shot, just one lap, but oversteps the track limit mark and has to go again, and because they're pushing on, so they run wide and still can't get a lap in, and then the plan goes out of the window. So they do have to be mindful of track limits. There is the Gusner family Mercedes, Thomas, Manuela, Corinna and David Gusner, the drivers, and that car is currently 13th in time based on what it did in the first part of qualifying. Driver required, mechanic waves, driver steps forward. The 2Cs Mercedes, or because there are two of them, the 4Cs team, are good to go. They've got one Pro, one Pro-Am entry for the purposes of the Lenovo Gulf 12 hours, but one of those, of course, with Jules Gounod on board, a very significant car indeed, going for a championship.
Yeah, absolutely. Jules Gounod looking to try and, if he can, stitch up the Intercontinental GT Challenge, powered by Pirelli, over the course of the next 24 hours or so. And with the team that's been put together there, and Jules Gounod, as you would expect, partnered up in that pro car with some very, very rapid drivers to sit alongside him. You look at Jules Gounod, and is there anything he's done wrong in the last couple of years? His CV has grown tremendously, hasn't it?
Done wrong?
Has anything gone wrong in the last few years? His CV has grown tremendously with the amount of races that he's won and championships that he's won in the last 2 years.
I can only think of one.
Yeah.
Which was Donington British GT, safety car restart, slithered out wide on the restart, lost the race lead. Other than that, no,
Perfect,
draw a blank.
yeah.
I mean, yes, he does not make errors. That's why it sticks in my mind, because it was such a rarity.
And it sticks in my mind that he had a horrible weekend a couple of weekends ago, but that was through no fault of his own, wasn't it?
Yes, the Mercedes he had in Macau, Alan's touching on, was not the most compliant of cars, and it was a very unlike Jules performance, and he was decidedly downbeat about it because he liked the place, but he wasn't being allowed to really demonstrate how good he is. And but yes, you look at what he's won. You know, how many Bathurst 12 hours now? Three.
Yeah.
Outright, Mercedes and in Bentley. He's won the Spa 24 hours for Audi and for Mercedes AMG. He's won the Endurance Championship twice. He's of course been successful in America. Yeah, I mean, as you say, Mark, the list goes on and on and on. And it's part of the success that introduced him to his partner, because last year at Spa, Jules was celebrating winning the race outright, and the Iron Dames were celebrating winning the Gold Cup. One of the drivers was Michel Gatting, and they got chatting behind the podium as you do, and now they're a couple.
Oh, well, I didn't realise that.
It's quite a nice story,
Yeah,
really.
it is a nice story, actually. So the cars are heading back down towards pit lane exit. The fast lane is open. The Q2 qualifying will start in around about a minute and 20 seconds time, and at the front of the queue, ready to head out. That looks like it was one of the Garage 59 McLarens. Was it not the number 88 car of Alexander West, Louis Perret and Martin Kirchhofer? That car, Alan, did have problems, didn't it, in free practice too?
It did. Well, there were problems, but they weren't terrible problems. The team decided to sort of overcorrect something that might have become a problem. It was the upshift on the car. I think the car only did 1 or 2 laps, and then it came in, and immediately they put it up on jacks, took the bottom of the car out, and even changed the steering wheel as well. Andrew Kokotti from the team was telling me that it was still upshifting, it just wasn't upshifting quite correctly. So they thought, it being free practice, they could work on it then, not during qualifying, and hopefully they would have a good car for qualifying.
So all the right gears, but not necessarily the right order.
I don't know about that.
Something like that, yeah. 75, there you can see the Mercedes set to go. The car that Kenny Habel is behind. And as far as this next part of qualifying is concerned, it's going to be Dominic Baumann behind the wheel. So Dominic Baumann next, then Kenny Habel in the third part, and Martin Conrad is being given driving duties at the very end. I think we were suggesting that Dominic Baumann might do the final
I thought
segments.
he might, purely because he's
I would
notionally the quicker.
I'd concur, but Martin Conrad also is rapid, knows the car well. So driver 3 for Q2, just keeps everybody on the toes, this. But now it starts, as Mark said, to get busier on track, and also we have to factor in the average. So what we have in isolation in this 15-minute part is interesting, but yes, of course, it's the average for the grid that now starts to take up rather more attention. Down the pit lane there is the Grove Racing Porsche. It's Dad at the wheel, Stephen. Which of the Gussners is behind? The answer is Corinna, former volleyball player, professional volleyball player. And number 46, BMW. Who would you like to be looking at that? That is going to be Dries Van Thor for the first run that car will have had. So the Porsche of Stephen Grove wriggling its way down towards the back part of the circuit. The flat six Porsche, very distinctive engine note. And Alan, I think, will back me up on this, that one of the beauties of GT racing isn't just that all the cars are different shapes, and not only because they're different sizes and different engine configurations, whether it's normally aspirated or turbocharged or twin turbocharged, Alan, but they all make a great noise, don't they?
They certainly do. And I opened the microphone just on cue for that as well. No, you worked to a beautiful bed of symphony of different engines. That's a BMW in the background just leaving pit lane. But you're absolutely right. That is one of the joys of this form of racing. What a success it has been. And every engine, every manufacturer's car, everyone sounds different. They all make glorious noises, but in different keys.
Yes, you're quite right.
They absolutely. When we had the nighttime familiaration last night, I was back at the W Hotel on my balcony, and I was closing my eyes and was listening to a car go by and trying to identify what it was purely on noise. And most you got right. It was quite surprising how noisy the Porsches were and how quiet the Ferraris were.
Yes, I agree with that. Yeah. Once upon a time, when the British GT Championship first went to Knock Hill, and it was a horrendously wet and misty morning.
Wet and misty at Knock Hill?
I know,
never heard of it.
Hard to believe,
Perish
isn't
the
it?
thought.
And the warm-up session happened to tick a box on the regulations, but it was all behind a pace car, safety car, for 3 laps. And in the good old circuit commentary box in the middle of the hill, you could not see the track, but you could hear the car. So I knew that the Lister was there. I knew that the Viper was there because you could hear the engine notes. So it's a great thing, GT engine sounds. Happy days. Right, this, as I say, is where it starts to get a bit serious, and we've already got people having a wag of the finger from race control, because number 76 now, the Wayne Mars, Amir Narat, Matt Topham Mercedes, has had the pit exit speed looked at, and it's under investigation, and also a speed noted, number 93, Eddie Cheever. We know drove it in the first part of qualifying, and the Sky Tempesta McLaren was given over to who? He says looking for a driver.
Just come up, Kevin's saying.
Right, okay, so the Macau driver behind the wheel on exit. And little by little, the pit lane starts to empty, and things are getting busier.
Yeah, down there in the pit lane is the only former winner of the race that we've got amongst the entry list for this weekend. Isa Al Khalifa. Oh no, it's not. Faisal Al Zubair, actually. Just looking at it now, it's Faisal Al Zubair that's behind it. That car will have the only former winner in the previous iterations of the Gulf 12R behind the wheel for later on. Who's out there and on it straight away? Dries Van Thor straight away at the wheel. Number 46 Team WRT car. He's only on, in reality, sort of his first. Is he on his outlap? Or no, he's done an outlap. He's on his first flying lap, but purple straight away. And looking at the sector time, that's quicker pretty much already than the sector time we had in Q1, isn't it?
Car's lighter, you could argue, because they will have fueled it less, given it's only got to do 3 segments. Interesting, actually, Dries Van Thor hasn't, by his own admission, taken to the BMW in quite the way that he did the Audi, but arguably he was never going to, because he spent so many years with the Audi, he knew it absolutely inside out. That said, a win did come to Dries in World Challenge Europe. That was the Valencia race, and he was part of the winning team in the Kyle Army 9 Hours. Now, I'll grant you again, that didn't have the biggest of entries, but it was still a win for BMW. So 2 purples now for Dries van Thor. He will offer up the benchmark time, won't he, in number 46 BMW. It does take some getting used to, not having Dries with 32 on the side of the WRT car, but he's been moved to the other one to join Valentino Rossi, and the third driver in 46, Nick Yellowly.
Who in turn has had a really good year. I was just having a little chat to Nick, and he's very happy. I think he joined with BMW in 2018, and it was a great career move for him, because I think this year has perhaps been his best, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, they had 2 wins in World Challenge, one of which was a Spa 24. He comes here very much as one of BMW's top drivers within IGTC. And yeah, after a single-seater career that plateaued a bit, GT racing has rejuvenated the career, hasn't it?
He has, yeah, and he was a very happy guy down here. We've seen him in the UK since he was in junior Formula, so we've followed his march up through the ranks, and where he is now, he's in a very happy place.
Right, so we're now going to start to get proper lap times offered up, and we are being shown is the average order, so we'll be able to look at lap times, as I say, within this segment, but the grid order is what we'll be focusing on. The best lap of the session thus far, actually, has come from Scott Andrews in the Kessel Ferrari, the American. He's one of the few drivers that offers a chance to talk about the Walter Hayes Trophy, because he came to the UK to race Formula Ford 1600 in the Walter Hayes Trophy at Silverstone, the Formula Ford Festival at Brands Hatch a few years ago, but has now settled into racing GT cars stateside. And with a big flash of the lights, Dries van Thor is on a mission here, so he can see the traffic up the road, and he's saying, come on, out of the way, on your toes, I'm quicker than you. And he's in the last sector as well, so heading then towards the W Hotel, underneath which he will turn now, down towards turn 14. Dries van Thor, Ferrari did let him go, but hopefully he won't have lost too much pace out of all of that. Up towards the timing line he will come. Joel Sturm goes fastest, and a big off for number 12 Porsche that brings out a red flag. So the session is stopped, and a lot of damage done then by Stefano Costantini, who has done the front and the back and the suspension. The clock stops because it's qualifying, but a big hit out on track, and we're not going to see that car again today. Stefano Costantini, who is not an inexperienced driver, is okay and clambers free of the car, but whether he was pushed or whether he fell, time will tell, but that's a very badly damaged car.
It certainly is, isn't it? Yes, significant damage. And just looking at where the tyre marks go off in the background, it does make you question as to whether there's going to be some circuit furniture that's been damaged as well. But debris all over the circuit. The main thing is he's out of the car and absolutely fine. And as you say, that's the most important thing. I think we might be able to get a replay of the tail end of what happened. Yes, straight into the barriers. A very large incident. He just missed the gap in the wall there, but yeah, the barrier's doing its job and containing the car within the circuit, but that was a significant impact at a very fast part of the circuit, Alan. Makes you question whether something went wrong somewhere with that car, because, as you say, Stefano Costantini is not an inexperienced driver.
And bearing in mind that Alex Fontana, who's one of the other drivers of that, was fastest within the last free practice session, that's a big blow. And now the question is, can the car be repaired for tomorrow? It'll have to start at the back of the grid, obviously, if it can start at all. But yeah, Costantini, as I say, he's not inexperienced. He's had lots of experience, not just in Ferraris, but Porsches, Renaults as well. And it does make you think that either it was a mistake on cold tyres or something broke, because there was nobody around him that we could see. It didn't look like he'd been touched into that. And at that part of the circuit, at that sort of speed, I'm trying to work out exactly what mistake you could have made.
Yeah, I'm the same as you. I can't quite work out for the life of me as to what might have happened that put the car in that position in the first place. But whatever it was always going to be a fast incident at that part of the circuit. So the car is going to take a while to recover, and that number 12 car has a very large question mark over it for potentially the rest of the weekend. It was in the first sector, wasn't it, where the car had the off? So
yeah, we've been saying earlier on about how well presented that was and what a great livery it was, but it's, I'm afraid to say, a very badly damaged car now. I'm not going anywhere under its own steam.
Yeah, that's turn 3, turn 4, so he's perhaps lost it over the crest, has he, on cold tyres, as you say, and tried to correct it, and it's got away from him, maybe. But the car also loads up quite heavily on the suspension there as well, so maybe it was just as it loaded up.
Yeah, so the recovery crew will get there, but it might take a few minutes to sort the car, and as you say, check on the barrier. But whether he'd run wide over a curb coming over the crest and that had unsettled the car, discuss. Here's the end of it again. So it's already wrong, it's already in the barrier, it's airborne as well. That was, by the look of it, that's a sort of flat-out hit, which may therefore have also put liquid on the road. Yes, you can see it spilling out, can't you? So there's some liquid that's gone down as well. This is going to be quite a long stop, I fear. And, well, there's one straight panel, but not many. That's a big, big blow for Ashish Patel, Alex Fontana and Yannick Mettler as the other drivers of that car.
And you quite rightly say, you know, that was going really well, wasn't it, in free practice too? Alex Fontana, fastest of all, the Swiss driver, at the wheel of that Porsche. The Porsches in free practice had always been quite quick, but of course in all the free practice sessions you never quite know how much sandbagging has been going on. But, you know, look at average lap times, and not many cars had put in 2 laps to be able to get both drivers to set average lap time. But Joel Sturm in a Porsche, quickest on average at the moment at this stage of qualifying.
Yeah. We're going to have 20 minutes barrier repair at least. So, Alan, if you feel like a saunter, now's your time.
It could be a 20-minute saunter if you like, because there are so many drivers that there are just in the garages, and good to get their thoughts ahead of the weekend. So, if I find my cameraman, I shall do exactly that.
Well, in the meantime, we'll keep talking about what we can find in the pit lane. But
Alan wasn't really built for looking for people in a crowd, was he, either?
No. Unless he recognises their knees, yes. So the flatbed is on its way, and the Porsche are about to be retrieved. But it's the barriers that, as Mark was saying, took a big, big hit and will need to be sorted out. Of course, for Stefano Costatini, he will head to the medical centre for a quick check, as you do in any impact, light or heavy. And the car collection, well, it's now parts collection rather than car collection, because there are lots of parts scooped up, will be retrieved and taken back to the team, who will be decidedly miserable, because A, they've got a lot of work to do, B, they've got a big bill for all the parts, but the bigger concern is whether they've got them all. This isn't like a European race where you laid everything onto the truck. You've got to be savvy about what you may or may not need and put it on a container a month, 2 months in advance. So whether they've got all the bits, they might have to go and talk nicely to the other Porsche teams here. They have, of course, got a second car within the team. It might end up being cannibalised, the set of parts for that.
Quite possibly, yeah. Or, of course, lots of phone calls and messages going on to other teams based in the Middle East that might have a Porsche GT3 sitting around somewhere.
Yeah.
Quite possibly.
Race control team making their way out to go and inspect the barrier repair work as well.
So during this period of time, David, when the cars are in the pit lane, of course, the teams all take the tyres off the car and put them back in the ovens at the back of the garage, the ovens that preheat these tyres, not up to full race temperature, but they do preheat them quite significantly. They can now bolt on, I'm guessing, another brand new set of tyres to go out in the restart of this qualifying, or do they have to go back out on the existing set?
I think they could put on another
set of news,
if they wish.
Which would scrub in another new set for the race, potentially, then, if they haven't scrubbed enough.
Yeah, I mean, they need to be mindful of that allocation.
Yeah.
And whether it's worth doing that, depending on how much life they've just taken out of that first set. I mean, yeah, there's an argument to scrub them in, but if that set that you've just been using is sort of scrubbed and ready to go, then you may be setting yourself back ever so slightly. But I'm sure the engineers that run this regularly will have a better take on it. They'll be able to see what the tyre has done.
And also depends on what the surface and core temperatures of the tyres that are in the oven that haven't been used compared to the ones that have just come off the car that have done a few laps. If that core temperature is still going to be there in the current tyre they've just taken off, bolt it back off.
I mean, 20 minutes is a long wait.
It is, yeah.
But then, it won't take that long, I don't think, to get back up to temperature given the ambient, or relatively little time. So the pit lane is, at the moment, all calm, but Car Collection Motorsport, it's going to get very, very busy once they get the car back. The good news is Stefano Costatini leapt out. Alan, yeah, sorry.
I've been looking for friendly drivers that are happy to have a chat. And Mauro Engel is always friendly, always happy to have a chat. Probably because he spent quite a bit of time in Australia. It kind of kind of loosens you up for it, doesn't it?
Maybe it rubbed off a little bit, yeah, but Germans can be friendly too.
Yes, they are. Very friendly. You're quite right too. And so can Brits. So we can all get along nicely and have a chat about this amazing car that you've got this weekend, because the livery is back.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great to have the Mamba here. Obviously an iconic design, and yeah, what a place here in Abu Dhabi. It's always special to drive, especially at night here.
So just a few weeks ago, you were driving at Macau, a circuit that couldn't be more different to this place, could it?
Yeah, well, the walls are a little bit closer. I mean, maybe the hotel section or exit of turn 14 reminds you of Macau, but yeah, different track, but obviously both tracks that are extremely enjoyable to drive. This track here has a great flow, so it's always a lot of fun, and obviously Macau, yeah, well, obviously I think, well, one of my favorites for sure, and I think one of the favorites of all the drivers.
Yeah, it is just something unique about that event, which there's nothing like it anywhere in the world. And I think I can say the same about the Lenovo Gulf 12 Hours. There's nothing quite like this, is there? We're all going to a barbecue afterwards by the water.
Yeah, it is special, and there is probably no track comparable, and it's a great facility. It's a great time of year to be here, so always very happy to come and do this race, and obviously very competitive in the field.
Right, now, can we get your thoughts ahead of this weekend? It's the final round of the Intercontinental GT Challenge powered by Pirelli. It is also, of course, the Lenovo Gulf 12 Hours.
Yeah, it's obviously a straight fight between our competitors at BMW and us for both the championships. So, you know, from our side, obviously, we're going to do everything we can to try and secure manufacturer's title and driver's title for Jules or Luca. We're expecting nothing less from our competition, so I'm sure it'll be a tough battle, and the battle commences right now in qualifying pretty much. I
love the fact that the garages are next door as well.
Yeah, it's interesting, but yeah, no, we definitely know where our competition is, and you know, we'll do everything we can to try and come out on top.
So what happens for you after this event? We talk about it like an end of term race meeting. It's the end of the year. Do you get some time off now?
I spend some time with my lovely wife and daughter, so looking forward to that. Always love racing, love the opportunities we get to race around the world in places like here, or all the other great tracks and championships we race in. But yeah, I think it'll be good to go home, recharge the batteries, spend some family time, and then come back as strong as ever next year.
Thank you, Mauro. Thank you for being so kind and having a chat to us. Mauro Engel, always happy to have a chat to us down here in the pit lane, and I'm pretty sure over the course of the next 48 hours we'll probably do that again and again.
And he's somebody, isn't he, Alan, who is looking for better fortune than last year, because in last year's race, the Gripper M Mercedes had problems early on, and I seem to remember you telling us that they left the circuit, were heading back to the pool, and then they returned, and Mauro did a few laps.
They came back, and yeah. I wasn't going to bring back those memories unless he did, to be perfectly honest, because it was one of the most awkward moments of my career, so I thought I'd leave it out. And interestingly, he decided not to mention it, so I took the right decision.
Alan, thanks for the moment. We are looking at a somewhat flattened bit of Armco, Mark.
Yeah, very much so. We can see Pete Roberts, one of the race directors, out there together with the rest of the circuit staff and officials looking at the barriers, 3 rows high of Armco barriers, which have stood up to what was quite a ferocious impact, as did the car, to be fair. They have both done their required job, but unfortunately, yeah, until those barriers are back in a vertical upright position, or the replacement barriers that will have to be put in place, we are not able to get the session back underway. And that is not the work of a moment, Alan. Sorry, David. It will be done as quickly as possible, but it will take time, won't it?
It will, indeed, Mark. As the Porsche there, you can see being taken away, is in a sense the least of the problems. You know, that part of the operation to scoop that up has been quick. As you say, it's the barrier that's the difficulty. But obviously you can't carry on running if the barriers are, can be like a ramp, because it's half collapsed, and so the track staff are there ready to, as swiftly as, replace the barrier, but it's also the post behind that's taken a pounding, hence the angle at which the barrier now sits that's going to have to be sorted out as well.
And where that post goes into the ground needs to be assessed as well, because obviously the post goes into the ground, and has that then moved the earth, moved the tarmac, moved the the sleeve that the post goes into, so all of that will need to be inspected. And the Porsche looked rather second-hand from the back, and that's the important part of a Porsche. That's where all the gubbins are at the back.
Yeah, and at the front you've got the radiators, and you've got the liquid and the coolant and everything else. So
it's going to be a long night, isn't it, for the team? But what they will do is assess it to start with, see the parts that they need, see if they've got them available. If they have, they'll crack on if they think they can do it and get the car out. If they haven't, it's then, can we get them somewhere else?
Yeah, indeed. And look, even if they don't get it done for 9 o'clock, with the pit lane opening around about 9:30, they could still start at the pits. They're going to be from the pits at 10 o'clock. You know, they can use as much time as they can. They're going to be at the back of the grid now, come what may. So, you know, as long as they get a lap, as long as they get the car fixed, then fair enough. But that's the big concern is the parts more than anything else. We're not going to be restarting, as you can see, until at least 7 o'clock. So we've got 15 minutes before things are back underway. But Peter Roberts and the race control team making sure everything is right. The guys here well versed in knowing how to attack the barriers. You can see instantly they're being taken apart, the new bits put in. But again, I come back to exactly what Costatini must have had before him, because to be that amount of barrier damage and for the car to be airborne at that speed, yeah, okay, we know why the barrier is damaged because it was a massive hit at high speed, but what triggered that incident?
Absolutely,
wow.
Yeah. We only caught the tail. They're still trying to extract bits of Porsche from under the barriers. You can see at the moment there's still bits of the bodywork that are underneath it. So it's the barriers themselves, it's the post. But what we didn't mention is that the spreader plates between each row of barrier as well. So there's a spreader plate in between each post, which prevents the barriers from peeling apart separately. So there's lots of work to be done there. But I think Alan might be able to maybe bring us some more news from the pit lane. Alan, are you there?
I promised you interviews from the pit lane, and interviews I will bring you from the pit lane. Valentino Rossi, welcome back to Yas Marina. What a circuit.
Grazie, thanks a lot. It's a fantastic place, and the track, the layout of the track is great. It's very funny, and also they make some modify, and the track become also better.
It was a little highlight for me a few years ago when you got onto the overall podium, third on the podium, winning your category as well. You were loving it.
Yes, it was a great experience. It was the first time that we share the track with the pros, and we enjoy a lot with Uzo and with my brother, with Luca, and we were able to finish on the podium. So the target for tomorrow will be the same.
Now you found a family, a home with BMW, a great year for you and a win.
Yeah, I'm very happy because I was able to improve a lot from last year, and I feel very good with the team, with the WRT team, and also in the BMW family. I enjoy a lot, yes.
They told me I could ask you 2 questions. I asked 3. I'm not going to push my luck, Valentino. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Ciao, ragazzi.
Thank you very much indeed, Valentino Rossi down in the pit lane. I don't really need to introduce him or say that was him, do I? Not really.
But I'll tell you what, Alan, your smile is about as wide as Valentino's.
It always is.
I don't think I've ever seen him grumpy. Even when bad luck has gone his way, he still smiles, and you can understand why he has such a following, can't you?
There's a little group of people wearing VR46 T-shirts at the back of the garage. They were here in 2018 or 2019 when he was here last. They follow him around the world. What a power to bring so much joy to people around the world. It's amazing.
I mean, how many different vehicles have you been behind in different countries, David? And you see a 46 sticker on the back. He's a global superstar.
Absolutely, in the way that a rock star would be. Yeah. It is absolutely extraordinary. And the one thing, I'll do it publicly because I ask people this in the bar or wherever, and people, on social media respond if you will. But what I'd love to know is how all of these people discovered Valentino Rossi in the first place. I understand that he's a great character. I understand that he's a wonderful motorbike champion, 9 times a world champion. He's now a very good GT racer. Motorbike racing in the UK, in isolation, gets hardly any mainstream media coverage. How has this guy, in a pretty niche sport, captured the imagination of so many people? Yeah, once you know about him, you understand what he is. But what was it that put you on to him in the first place?
Yeah, what was the catalyst?
That's what I would love to know, because now we know what a great character he is. We've seen what a great rider he was, and how he was no slouch in the Monza Rally. He was good in his early GT outings here or at the Nürburgring when he had a Blancpain endurance round, going back many, many years. I'm fascinated to know, so please, answers on a postcard or the equivalent thereof. Alan, hello.
Can I just add something to interviewing Valentino Rossi? It is very rare that the cameraman that I'm working with then puts down his camera and asks for a photograph with a driver that we've just interviewed. That just happened, all right?
It's also very rare that the interviewer is embraced by Valentino, but it happened at Misano when he won his World Challenge sprint race in Europe this year. He did the final stint. He stopped on the slowing down lap and got out and waved at all the fans. He came into the Parc Fermé area, and Gemma Scott, who was there, microphone in hand to interview him, was told on the talkback by the producer, just get in there, Gemma, and in she went and said, well done, buddy. And Valentino said, grazie, and gave her a big hug. I don't think Gemma has washed since. People would give a huge amount of money for that, but it was one of Gemma's crowning moments, I think.
Quite right too, yeah, absolutely brilliant. And he's effervescent when he does well, and when he gets on the podium, his celebrations. He was on the podium at Brands Hatch this year, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And everyone just feeds off the enthusiasm and the smile. Like you said, you never see him without a smile on his face. He's a star. Anyway, there are other drivers. Let me seek them out for you.
If you're in BMW land, he's probably in the car, but Dries van Thor's always worth a word. But he might still be in the car.
I think he is still in the car.
Right, okay. Scrap that.
I'm pretty sure he is. Hang on. No, he's not, actually. I just walked round to the side of the car, in which case, where is he? Let me see if I can find him in the garage. Or, no, there's a lot of people now in the garage with VR46 T-shirts, because obviously they see him on the big screen, they know he's sitting down in the garage now, don't they? So
yeah, it's your fault.
It's a bit of a giveaway. It's all my fault. and I incidentally, just as a follow-up to the interview, I was told off for asking 3 rather than 2 questions. I knew I would be. I knew I would.
Don't push your luck too early in the weekend, Alan.
I know. I got carried away. I had another 138.
Well, I thought the third question was actually question 2, part B.
That's what I told her.
Yeah, exactly.
That's exactly what I said to her. I said the second question comes in 2 parts.
It's not my fault he gave good answers. Yeah.
Exactly that. Stand by, I'll have a little look round the back of the garage.
All right, no worries. And if you can't find Dries, then I'm sure there are other people that we can hear from. But we are looking at least another 10 minutes, at least, before things get back underway. Really awkward part of this 15-minute period, Mark, for the clock to stop, because it's just about at the halfway mark.
Yep.
So some people have not really got into a run, and because of where we are, you might run out of time before you actually get to where you want to be within that run plan.
Absolutely, yeah, as we were alluding to in the first part of qualifying, when it's only a 15-minute session, your out lap takes 2 minutes, you've only got 6 laps, 7 laps really to get on with it. So when you get this red flag in the middle of it, you've now got to do another out lap, which is going to take 2 minutes. And then by the time you come over the start-finish line to record your first flying lap, if you didn't quite get one in before the red flags come out, you're going to be down to, probably no more than 4 minutes left, which gives you probably just two good laps, and then the tyres might start to drop off again.
And on top of that, just suppose, because you're really keen to get a lap time in, you exceed track limits and that lap's taken away.
Yeah.
Then you really are in strife.
Then you're swimming against the tide there, aren't you?
Yes.
And also, the track condition, whilst the track itself for 99.9% of it is going to be fine, where that lubricant and oil and whatever will have been put down following the incident, it will have been treated, but that's still a point at which the cars are travelling at some speed, and the grip might not be quite there to the ultimate degree that they look for.
No, you're right. It's going to be a test, all this. I mean, it's a good job in a sense that it's an average, isn't it? And you're not purely dependent on these times, because these potentially might be a little bit slower when we get back live.
Yeah, the good thing is it affects the average for everybody in the same way, doesn't it? Because everybody has got exactly the same problem, potentially.
So as the teams await, we were told not to expect a restart before 7 o'clock. We've got 7 minutes before 7 o'clock. And looking at that last bit of work, I think we're going to find an extension to that time. There's the Como-Ledegar Racing Team Porsche with one of the more creative liveries, as in car, paint, fire. And that's the outcome. 1910 we're now looking at as the restart, not before. So we've slipped another 10 minutes.
Yeah, it's going to take a while, isn't it? It's in the process of removing the damaged barriers before they can then even start to rebuild everything back up again. So I think that is still going to mean a lot of work needs to be done in that 17 minutes to be able to. But it is just an estimate at this stage. And whilst we're still trying to estimate when we'll get things back underway, let's go back down to the pit lane and Alan Hyde.
I was given a task. It was to find Dries van Teur, and I was an intrepid detective, and I found him just chilling out at the back of the garages with the other BMW drivers, because this is a difficult time, isn't it? When you get a race stoppage, you were on it, you were all keyed up for what you were doing, it was going well, and then you have to stop and get yourself in the right frame of mind to get back in the car. Best thing to do, out of the car and have a bit of air.
Yeah, I mean, especially I think it will take quite some time. I think more than 30 minutes at least, I guess. I mean, I hope quicker, but the barrier looks quite badly damaged. So yeah, then I have nothing else to do but get out and relax a bit and try to get ready again for the next time we go out.
And of course, it's the final round of the Intercontinental GT Challenge powered by Pirelli this weekend. So it's an important weekend, isn't it? Although we're at the end of the year and it kind of feels a bit like, woohoo, we've got to the end of the season. There's big things up for grabs.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, compared to Philip, it's going to be a bit more difficult for me. But nevertheless, we keep trying. It's been going well so far this weekend. But yeah, there will need to be some luck on my side, and things need to happen for me to get that championship. But nevertheless, if I can give my hand to Philip to help him, then I'll do that as well. So, but let's see. I hope I can bring a title home.
Well, judging by last year, nothing ever happens totally according to plan in this big showdown at the end of the year.
No, for sure not. So, you know, it's a long race, a lot can happen. Traffic will be important. And keeping our nose clean till the last few hours, making sure hopefully we can do a decent quali. So far it's been a bit difficult. Didn't know that hitting cones nowadays they count as track limits, but that's something new I've learned today. Yeah, nevertheless, we have to keep trying and keep going.
May I ask a question, Dries, about, I mean, you've been exceptional with one manufacturer for many years and then moving to another manufacturer. How difficult or easy is that transition? Because the cars presumably are very, very different, are they?
Yeah, it took me honestly a little bit of time. Changing from a rear engine to a front engine for me personally is quite a big difference, and I was struggling a little bit in the beginning, to be honest, but I think hopefully I found a bit my way of how to handle that, and for the next hopefully years it will be fine, I hope. But yeah, it took some time also for the team. You know, it's our first year with BMW, so we need to, you know, start from zero, learn everything new again, see what we can improve, see what we can develop better, and but it's nice to be part of that, to try to develop a car in a nice way. But it wasn't super easy to adapt, but I think now it's going well.
Yeah, I get that, and thank you for being so frank and honest with your answer. As far as the lineup at BMW is concerned, with announcements that have happened over the course of this year, it's big star after big star they're lining up, isn't it? Goodness me.
Yeah, at the moment we have some pretty good drivers in our let's say at BMW. So yeah, it's gonna be nice racing for next year. Looking forward to that, and hopefully we can, as a team and with BMW, bring some nice trophies back home. For sure, we have the drivers for it, the manpower for it. So let's see, it will be interesting.
Dries, thank you so much for having a chat to us down here. I'm pretty sure that over the course of tomorrow I might speak to you again.
Hopefully. I mean, let's see.
Okay, mate. Thank you very much indeed. Dries van Teur just in front of the BMW garage, and a really honest and frank interview, that.
Yeah, indeed. And, of course, one of the two very rapid Van Teur brothers, because elder brother Lawrence, of course, part of Porsche's factory programme, formerly at Audi. And, of course, the two had their moment of contact, didn't they, in the Nürburgring 24 hours, which dispatched Lawrence, and Dries came through for a race win ultimately. But like his brother, started off in single-seaters, very quickly deviated towards GT racing, and 3 times World Challenge Europe Sprint champion, as well as being an overall title winner, Nürburgring 24-hour winner, you name it, raced LMP2 machinery in the WEC. Right, Mark's peering at the barrier damage and will give his assessment thus.
Yeah, well, they've managed to take off a good chunk of the Armco barriers now, but you could just see the damage that the posts have taken. So the grey, pure, unpainted metal post that's towards the right-hand side of the shot there, you can see how that is bananaed. So that still needs to be extracted out of the ground and then inspect whether it sits. I don't know whether they sit in a sleeve that's in there or whether they are into solid ground or tarmac. I simply don't know. I've not been around the back of the barriers to want to know that. I did spot also that the Car Collection Motorsport Porsche that caused this red flag has been pushed back down the pit lane. It was on its dollies. It was fully covered up. So we couldn't quite see much of the car there, but I think we can have another look back at the incident that brought about this red flag in the first place, with Stefano Constantini behind the wheel of the car, and we only catch the tail end of it. You can see already the car is off in the barriers on the left-hand side. It's already airborne.
It's already hit.
And it has hit the barriers there at such a speed that it's destroyed the front and the back of the car. The barriers didn't come off much better. The important thing, and it's the only thing that matters, is that the barriers did their work, the car did its work, and stepped out of the car with Stefano Constantini undamaged.
And just before that, you could see on the circuit, and there it is again, what looks like another tyre stack, which I suspect might be put in front of the barriers for extra protection now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm still intrigued as to know exactly how he got to where he got.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite surprising, isn't it, as to how much that is a crest as you come out of turn 2 and up to 3. It is quite a crest, isn't it? So, what, did he run wide at the previous corner and then couldn't quite make it to the next one? Was there an issue with the car? We simply don't know. And the only man who knows that is Stefano Constantini, and now would certainly not be the time to ask him that question. That would be something to maybe understand come tomorrow.
You say that. Alan's a brave fellow. I have every confidence.
That's your challenge you're throwing down.
By the end of the night, I have every confidence we'll have heard from Stefano Constantini. Normally Alan rises to a challenge. We shall see.
It sounds as though he's firmly palmed that one away.
Yeah. I have something lined up for you, the like of which you've never seen before on television. I promise you. I thought I might see if I can get a word with the leader of the Intercontinental GT Challenge Championship heading into this final weekend. And while I speak to you, I'm just going to see if I can get hold of my cameraman and take him with me on a walk down the pit lane, because I thought I'd see if I could find Jules Gounon. And I did, and he said, "Aha, we've been expecting you. We've got something planned." So let me see if we can. Let me see if we can. That's it.
Your cameraman, I think, is at garage 23 at the moment, Alan.
No, garage 16. So I've got two cameramen down here.
Right,
I'm spoilt because of previous years' diva demands that I've had of my cameramen. So, so we've got cameramen in the second half of the pit lane and the first half of the pit lane as well. And if this goes according to plan, this is a choreographed cut to the camera when the RF camera gets to Jules' garage, which we're very close to. And
we're walking with you.
It's very amusing that that they had all this planned. We had something very special for you. Check this out. So let's have a look in the garage. This is all very well worked out, and he's going to make quite an entrance to have a conversation. Have you ever seen the like of it? Have you ever seen the like of it? What an entrance. Jules, what an entrance. I mean, you can get out of your boat now. This is a serious weekend. You're having far too much fun.
Yeah, we have good fun with Fabi and Maxi. That's a key factor, and also with 2C. So, well, we have a time to have a bit of fun while the quali was interrupted. So
it was a great intro. I've never done an intro quite like that, so well done. Right, thoughts on this weekend, because you lead the championship heading into this final meeting of the year. It's a difficult weekend in as much as it's the end of the year. Everyone's feeling it's quite a nice sort of almost slightly holiday feel to the final meeting of the year, but there's important business to be done, isn't there?
yeah, exactly. I think it's going to be a big fight with the BMW, with Philippe, Dries, Sheldon, and also Luca. And IMG has also a shot at it. So it's great to be in this position, but we really expect a big fight from them. So we were looking forward quali to see a bit which cards we have on our hands, but let's see when this resumes.
We've had free practice. We've had free practice today. We've had free testing leading up to today. But no one really knows the true pace, do they, until we get to qualifying?
Yeah, we focus a lot on the long race, on the long pace, run. So we focus a lot on our race balance. So we were expecting tonight to see our car. We know the strong point of IMG is always qualification. The car is very good when we are low on fuel. So we are looking forward to this session. It's also the nicest of the day. You know, it's cool. The ambient is cool. The track is cool. You have new tires, low fuel. So it's always a nice session to do. So now we need to wait. That's why we were a bit bored with Fabi, but yeah, we're looking forward.
We're very pleased that you were a bit bored. Dare I take your mind back to a couple of weekends ago, because you were at Macau. I hadn't seen you at Macau before. We hadn't seen you at Macau before, and we were expecting great things, and it never happened. You were as frustrated, I think, as all of us.
Well, actually, I think I was not in Macau. It was my dad that was driving with my helmet. To be honest, it was a very difficult weekend for us. We had some issue on the car that we could never solve, and I enjoyed the side of the race. Luckily, my girlfriend was there with me, so it was nicer to spend the week, but it was very frustrating, very painful. And I hope next year I will be back to show some pace and go for it.
You rather like the track once you discovered the joys of Macau?
No, the track is fantastic. You know, it's one of those tracks in the world where you go there and you respect the place, first of all. Before you get in the car, you're a bit anxious, which is good. And it's the Bathurst place, the Nordschleife place, this place, you know, all those crazy tracks that sometimes you wonder how we are still driving that fast around those tracks. And
oh no, I always worry about that.
Yeah, exactly. But it was wonderful track, bad experience for me right now, but I'm really looking forward to go next year again and go for it.
Have you got a good feeling about this weekend?
Yeah, the car felt really good. I'm happy to be with Max and Fabi. It's always good fun, and with my team from British GT. So it's very cool to be with familiar faces, and for them also to run a factory car is a great achievement to be back there and racing against WRT, which is an amazing team, and Group M also. So I'm very happy for the moment, but again, we didn't do quali yet, so that's why maybe I'm still happy. But we see tomorrow, and hopefully I'm still smiling and having jokes on Sunday.
You are, George. Thank you so much for having a chat to us, and that was remarkable. I tell you, I've never seen an intro like that before.
Encore.
Yeah, no, don't say that, because they'll be working out what they are going to do for an encore. But yeah, so now you understand. That's why you had to walk with me to get that interview.
It was worth a walk, Alan, worth a hobble. Thank you very much. Right, so Jules Gounod, who has been a really big asset to British GT over the last couple of years, on top of being a star in Europe and America, and indeed at Bathurst in the 12 hours there. He's a good character and a great GT driver.
He has. He's been fantastic to have in British GT, and he's just a genuinely nice man, isn't he?
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
There's what you see in that interview is exactly what you get with Jules Gounod, and not necessarily every professional racing driver is like that. He is a gem of a man, and yeah, long may he continue having this great success that he's had in his career. Estimated restart time is now 17:15. We can see that a good chunk of the work has been done to repair those barriers and remove the damaged barriers. Now it's a case of placing extra safety equipment in front of them as well, and only once all of that has been done and both the race directors and race stewards and circuit staff have all inspected it and are happy with it, will the session resume.
Indeed so, but we are given at least an estimated restart time now, rather than it being a no restart before ... Yeah. So there's optimism, and as you've just said, the work is 90% done. Teams are getting themselves ready as well to fire up engines, to let things start to warm, to get the cars back down the pit lane, and how much of an impact this is going to have on the ultimate grid, time will tell, of course, because we've still got, if you like, 2.5 parts of the 4 of qualifying to go. But yeah, the frustration for the drivers is that just having got themselves in the zone, they've had this very, very long break. Having said that, the 2C's comedy team have entertained us nicely.
That was one of the best things I think I've ever seen. What a fantastic introduction. Who came up with it? That's what I want to know. At what point did they say, now this is I think this might work, you know, lads?
Yes, exactly. And let's go and practice it somewhere as well.
Yes. Yeah. Or was it something they had up their sleeve for later on at the weekend? They've had to bring it forward.
Well, maybe, but yeah. Tickets for the next Gounod and Schiller performance are on sale now. They're here all week. Tell your friends. But as Jules says, it's good fun thus far. The car, though, which Maxi Goetz is behind the wheel of, has yet to get a lap time in. So, joking apart, there are a number of cars that have hit the track in that session, but the red flag went against them. So, their Q2 is going to be 7 minutes and 51 seconds, less the outlap, bearing in mind you've got a start-up lap to do. So this comes back to the point we made a little while ago about the pressure being on. It's not only that some drivers want to improve their lap time, but you've got the best part of 10 cars there without a lap time at all.
And some very, very quick drivers out in that as well, like, you know, former winner Al-Faisal Al-Zubair, probably less so, but Maxi Gertz, Ollie Milroy, Dries van Thur, Lucas Auer,
Lucas Stoltz.
Lucas Stoltz as well, you know, very, very quick drivers that have not got a lap in yet.
Yeah, it's going to be a bit harum-scarum this when we get going. Drivers are getting ready. Alan, hello. Oh, Alan is preparing himself for a chat to more drivers, and we'll hear from those before we get the next part of qualifying underway. But you've just seen in the pit lane, helmets on, gloves on, so the mood of the pit lane is changing, because we've got about 6 minutes before the estimated restart time.
Yep, so the news getting through to the teams, they'll be able to see it, they'll be in communication with the race control all of the time, not just in terms of what we can see, but also via other text messaging and systems that they have into place. But whilst we're waiting for those final 5 minutes, hopefully to tick away, let's go back down to the pit lane with Alan.
I've just spotted over my left shoulder Dries van Thur with his helmet on, about to get back into the car, which kind of backs up just a little rumour that I've heard in pit lane that we should be able to get things back underway in about 5 minutes at a quarter past. So great that Philippe Eng has been able to join me and have a chat to me. We've spoken to quite a few BMW drivers. It's not been bad for BMW drivers this year.
It's been going pretty well. We had a great victory in Indy. We won in Spa, which was great. Our sister car won in Kyalami, so it has been running pretty well so far, but we are quite a few points behind in the Drivers' Championship. We are leading the Manufacturers' Championship, which is great, so it will all come down to the wire tomorrow evening.
As I said to Dries, it's a pretty stellar lineup at BMW now. I mean, you've been with BMW for many years, haven't you?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I've joined BMW when I was in 2016, so quite a few years now. 1 or 2 more grey hairs, but
I can't see him, but you're doing well at covering them up.
So it's always short, you can't see them. No, I really enjoy my time here. I know everybody in the company now. I've been working with so many great drivers and so many great teams, such as this weekend. So let's hope we have a good one.
You're in a good position. Anything can happen tomorrow over a 12-hour race. You know that as well as anybody. And things didn't go totally according to the script last year for the leaders in the championship. I'm sure you're aware of the fact that tomorrow anything's up for grabs.
Yeah, well, it's a 12-hour race. A lot can happen. There's quite a lot of traffic because the field is quite packed. So traffic management will be definitely key tomorrow. And you just need to stay out of trouble and hope for the best, that you're in a good position with a clean car in the end of the race.
I love the fact that as we were walking over to the garage, I said something about Macau. I can't remember what it was. And you said, yeah, I was watching it. It kind of gets the eyes of motorsport around the world, doesn't it?
I'm a big fan of this race. I was, of course, crossing fingers for Augusto and Sheldon. They did an outstanding job finishing on the podium with Augusto. Unfortunately, Sheldon had the problem with the puncture, but it's such a fantastic race and an extremely cool track. So if anybody of BMW hears this, I am definitely up for the challenge.
Yes, certainly mark your card. Yeah, I wouldn't mind doing that. And this circuit, I mean, a totally different circuit, but a lovely circuit for a driver nonetheless.
Yeah, it's very cool, especially the third sector, sorry. I like those slow-speed corners. You need to get into a very good rhythm. Track temperature during the day is quite high, so you really need to be nice to your rear tires there every lap in order not to completely lose the rear end. But yeah, it's a very cool place, very impressive with all the lights. We were having dinner in the W Hotel last night and watching the cars go, or you could potentially watch the cars go by like 5 meters from you, which is very cool. So I like coming here, coming to the country. It's nice and warm here. When I left Austria a few days ago, it was -5 or -6 degrees.
Oh, that's worse than London, yeah.
So yeah, I enjoy the sun, and let's hope we have a good race tomorrow.
I hope you do, Philip. Thank you so much for sparing us quite a bit of time ahead of the weekend. I have a feeling I might be talking to you a fair bit over the course of tomorrow. Good luck. Thank you very much. There we go, Philip Eng down here in pit lane, and it's really good of the drivers to actually afford us a fair bit of time. Now, if my little spies are correct, then it might only be just a few minutes before we get things back underway.
Yeah, they were right, Alan, but I'm afraid we've now lost 5 more minutes because the repair work is still going on. So we're now looking at 20 past 7 rather than quarter past. So we're about 7 minutes and counting away from that. We are getting nearer to the restart. Basically, the concrete blocks have been put in to where the barrier would have been, and that's going to have an extra level of protection with these tyre stacks put in front. But again, these are big, these are heavy, these are cumbersome, so it's requiring a little bit of time and mechanical assistance, isn't it, Mark, to get them in place?
It certainly is, yeah, but all being done as quickly as they possibly can. The telehandler JCBs, a white JCB, never spotted a white JCB before, just trying to position another set of tyres there, and then hopefully once those are in, that should be then sufficient. There might be a third block that they'll bring in just to cover the area where concrete turns to Armco barrier, but can't see that from where we are at the moment. Certainly the drivers are ready there in the pit lane. You can see the Optimum Motorsport number 27 McLaren, which for this session is in the hands of Ollie Milroy. That's an all-British car, that one, with Optimum Motorsport being a British team. Mark Radcliffe, Ollie Milroy and Rob Bell all sharing that car. Ollie Milroy was one of the drivers that did get in a time in that McLaren, and he'll be hoping that he can get out there straight away and get on with it. They'll all be hoping that. No, he was one of the drivers that didn't get in a time, I should say, in that McLaren. He'll be one of the drivers that's hoping he can get on and get on with it.
All British team, but with a Belgian team manager, Bas Leinders, former racer, and he's in recent years been a bit peripatetic, going from Mark VDS to elsewhere, but he's found a happy home at Optimum.
So Bas, he got as high as Formula 3000, probably, did he? Yeah. And that was where the sort of single-seater career faltered.
I want to say he had a Minardi test, but I might not be right on that.
Right.
But, yes, and then was sort of player manager for Mark VDS in the early days of the Blancpain Endurance Series in the BMW Z4 days. Great, fantastic GT car that. It makes me feel old thinking about it. And they took a Spa 24 win. Not his car, I don't think. It was the Nick Katzberg car. But he then stopped driving, looked after the team, and went elsewhere. And he knows a huge amount about running a good operation, does Bas?
Well, it's a similar story for a lot of the team managers up and down this pit lane here, and that they've all had their careers in car racing, largely starting with single-seaters, a lot of them moving to GTs and then moving latterly into, once they've retired from the cockpit, into team management. It's a story not just in this pit lane, but in a lot of pit lanes up and down the world.
It's true enough, absolutely. And, WRT, as an example, has an amazing brains trust. If you've achieved anything in Belgian motor racing and then you stop driving, you end up, it seems, being involved in the team in some capacity. You just heard Philip Eng talk about the W Hotel. There it is, looking as futuristic as ever. The fountain's outside the front door, but the track goes underneath the hotel through the bridge that connects the two elements of it. It's a remarkable design, and it's a focal point of this circuit.
And that's what makes it unique, isn't it? You've got the harbour, you've got the beautiful circuit of the Yas Marina, but the backdrop of the hotel as well, off the back of that marina, does make it a very, very special place to be. And the glistening of the lights on the roof as well there as they change colour as well on some occasions. They've been blue and white, haven't they, for the last couple of days since we've been here. But it really is a very, very unique place. And we were chatting away last night as well. The first person that came up with that design, and then whoever had to be the structural engineer to work it all out. Right. Very, very clever people.
Yeah, they've done a very impressive job. And it's busy all the year round. It's not just at race weekends, but because where the circuit is, it's very, very close to the airport, so it's a good business hub as well around here for meetings, for businesses to welcome guests and so forth. So the restart time is approaching, or the estimated restart time, but it may well slip again, I'm afraid to say, but we will see.
I think the drivers are fairly confident, David, that it is going to be according to plan, because they have put helmets on and got strapped into the cars, and that's happened in the last sort of couple of minutes. So they wouldn't want to do that for any longer than they absolutely have to.
Fair point. Fair point. So the ones to watch, significantly, Maxi Goetz, Dries van Thor, Lucas Sauer and Lucas Stoltz, because those are four that haven't got any sort of banker lap in at all.
It certainly looks as though now, back where the incident occurred, that all of the tyres have been placed in front of those new concrete barriers that have been placed there. We've still got 4 course vehicles out at that point of the circuit, though, at the moment. It still looks as though some of the senior race officials are there as well. And I'm just wondering whether they are happy to sign that off or whether they might just need some further adjustments to it. But we are now only 2 minutes away from the estimated restart time. All the drivers are ready, but we haven't got all the course vehicles off the circuit yet, and we haven't got all of some of the very important race officials back into race control just as yet.
No, although there is a deputy that can take charge whilst required.
And they'll move a bit lively if this lot leave the pit lane, that's for sure.
Absolutely, yes, yes. It sharpens the focus a touch, doesn't it? Yeah. Whether they would need to do a full lap or be able to use the access roads, well, it's all a bit irrelevant because I don't think we're going to go live in 1 minute and 20 seconds, are we? So it'll be another few minutes yet before things are back underway. So as you were saying, Mark, a little while ago, Joel Sturm had been the driver that did the gun time, a 1:51.226, before the red flag came out, and he's looked really impressive. I was going to say all weekend, all season really. He's another relatively inexperienced but very, very quick driver that really does specialise in Porsches.
Yeah, and that car runs in the AM category as well, so at the moment that is a very, very quick AM car. Remember, we're split into 3 different categories. You've got the AM category, you've got the Pro-Am category, and you've got the Pro category. If it's an AM car or a Pro-Am car, they can have a maximum of 4 drivers. If it's a Pro car, and exclusively a Pro car, then that car can only have a maximum of 3 drivers. And as things stand, with the time now 30 seconds away, we're not quite going to get things started on time, are we? There's still conversations going on there. We've still got some course vehicles there, and we have got another set of tyres arriving. I did wonder if they might just ensure that where we went from concrete barrier back to Armco barrier, they might need another set of tyres just to cover off that very edge point of which you get the transition from concrete to metal, and it would appear that is the case.
Okay, but once that's done, because there are fewer personnel there now,
yeah,
suggesting that we are almost there, and another 10 minutes have been lost to the restart. So 19:30 is now the estimated restart time.
What time did the red flag occur? Was it about 10 to, was it? So about 40 minutes potentially by the time we get going?
I would say even longer than that, because initially I think we were looking at least a 20-minute delay, and that would have taken us to 7 o'clock. Yeah, no, 40 minutes. Now it'll be about 50 minutes.
About 50 minutes delay, yeah. You're right, yeah.
Yeah.
Which, considering the amount of damage to the barriers, is still very good work.
And there's also a bit of track sweeping to be finished off as well. The vehicle in the background has just been to collect its sweeper device and just make sure there are no bits of bodywork left on the road, because we've been concentrating on the barriers, but of course there has been all that debris on the track that needed to be sorted out as well. So Peter Roberts on the ground, Chris Norman in race control, the 2 race directors making sure that everything is right, the team's being kept informed as to the restart procedure, and then of course those drivers that we've been talking about without a time, and indeed everybody else wanting to improve a lap time, have suddenly got to get themselves fired up after a really long wait.
Yeah, and you've got to be on it straight away. For the pro drivers, it's a fairly easy process, plug and play, as they always are, the professional drivers. For the amateur drivers, and that's not being disparaging to them, they might just need to find their feet a little bit more. It might take them that extra lap to get there.
I think you're right, yeah. And they haven't got much time, because if you're at the back of the queue, you're going to lose 50 seconds before you hit the track. It's a long pit lane anyway. You've got the loop under the circuit before you even get to pit out, before you can increase your pace. Take 2 minutes out of it for an out lap. This is you're going to get 1, maybe 2 flying laps.
And as you say then, you make a mistake on one of those and get a track limit warning, or as we've seen in other categories, in short qualifying formats, where you make a mistake on 2 of your laps or 3 of your laps and qualifying's almost done and dusted. We've seen it in British GT, haven't we? Where
absolutely.
You go out there, you try and get those quick 3 laps in a very short session, and you muck up on all 3 of them, you're in strife.
It's not good, that's for sure. So we are not far away, he says optimistically, from getting things back up and running now. Joel Sturm gets himself ready for the resumption of Q2. And as far as the car collection motorsport team concerned, then they have to go away and work out exactly what is salvageable from the Porsche. It would be a huge shame if that car couldn't take the start tomorrow. And one hopes as well, of course, even though we saw him get out of the car, that once the adrenaline has worn off, there's no ill effect for Stefano Costatini as well. The rather aggressive Skippy, biding its time before he heads out on track with Stephen Grove as his chauffeur. So all thumbs up from the drivers as they get set for the resumption of Q2 here. Right, tyres are in place, track almost completed in the sweeping. The blowers are there as well, just to get rid of any final bits. So we aren't going to be that far away before we go green at the end of the pit road once more. Porsche, Ferrari, McLaren, Mercedes, BMW, McLaren is the order in the top 6 at the moment.
18:32 was the point the red flag came out. Thank you very much. Information just been received. So 18:32 was the point the red flag came out. But it does now look as though, yeah, more and more of the personnel are now about to leave the scene. We can see already several of the senior officials walking back to the vehicles. The final telehandler just going back behind the barriers. And is the sweeper done with what it needs to do? Not quite as yet. So that's the only vehicle at the moment that's still out there. We've still got our race director, Pete Roberts, still just liaising with some of the other officials. But I don't think we're too far away now from getting things back underway. And Alan, can I hear you in the background?
Yes, you can. And I said that I'd bring you a host of top drivers from around the world. Stefan Ortelli is with me. And Stefan, thank you for having a chat to us. A legend of endurance racing, GT racing around the world. I wanted to pick your brains about how a racing driver at this point, when you've got a delay and then it becomes a further delay and then a further delay, how do you stay focused? Because they pitch their mind for when they are scheduled to go out, don't they?
I was just talking about that a few minutes ago. There is always a good point. The good point is very quiet. So because it's quiet, you have plenty of time to focus on what you can improve, what you really need, the skills you need to repeat the lap you were doing at that time. But of course, it's also to breathe, relax, and having the picture of the whole weekend as well. You know, it's, of course, we are waiting for the qualifier, but the worst thing to do is to put more pressure on you, just because you are, let's say, kind of wasting your time. So basically, it's really making a mix between enjoying the calm, before going back to fight for the quali, but also to have the big picture of the weekend. And it's a 12-hour race. It's a big race, big event, and you have to do the right thing to be sure that you qualify well, but as well that you don't make a mistake for the rest of the weekend. You know, so it's important for. It's a tricky time, but I have to say people are working, repairing the barrier. They are doing their best for us and for our safety. So we also think about it. I have to say, of course, getting older, you also think about the safety. And I have to say, it has to be like that, and you have to wait and fill up with a positive attitude, waiting your turn.
It's been interesting, Stefan, just walking up and down the pit lane, speaking to various drivers, how some of them attack this period of time. Some of them are having fun, having a bit of a giggle. I've just seen the Goethers doing a little bit of exercise in the garage, and I think they've got their fitness instructor with them, haven't they?
I think they are right. I mean, you have to keep warm, especially if they are not into the car right now. So for me, I'm more focused on the Louis Pret is in the car 88 right now. Stay focused, thinking what you can do better, and also to enjoy this really calm period because you have a big job to do, and we like it. You know, we like also this period where you can really focus on your lap.
You're not driving this weekend. The reason I asked you for your opinion on how do drivers attack this time is because you're very much involved with looking after drivers this weekend.
Yeah, I still have 1 foot in driving, racing, working also for Porsche, and on the other hand, I have the other foot as a coach. I don't invent myself as a new job. I just like to follow these young kids, and Louis is super talented, so can't wait to have the quali back now.
This is good news because at 31 we're going to get the session back underway, so just about 4 minutes away. How difficult is it to not be driving? Because a racing driver is the most ultra-competitive human being on the planet, aren't they?
I'm not thinking about myself right now. I was just about saying one thing is I like the fact that they replaced with the concrete wall. They didn't try to fix the barrier more than that. Yeah, a claps to the guys. I mean, we are doing the best. It's actually the end of the year. It's one of the biggest races of the year as well. And I'm really happy that they did manage to replace by the concrete wall with the tire wall. It's a perfect choice.
Great interview. Thank you very much indeed. Stefano Ortelli, thank you very much for giving us a quite unique insight from somebody that has won and won and won over the years in this form of racing. Superb.
Alan, thanks very much. Yes, and interesting that Stefan is fully behind what the race officials have elected to do with that barrier to get things back underway as soon as possible. He knows of what he speaks. He's won races, won championships around the world, including, of course, not only Le Mans, but also 24 Hours at Spa as well, where he had a win last year in the SRO 30th anniversary GT race in one of the original Audi R8s that Stefan owns from his Blancpain Endurance Series triumphs. He took the race victories in the 30-year GT anniversary races with, as ever, the biggest of grins on his face.
You never lose it. That's the thing, do you? When you've been so successful at that level, there's not a lot that Stefano Ortelli hasn't won over the years. And yeah, when you've been so successful at that level, you drop back in a car and yeah, you just can still be quick, still be consistent, and wonderful to see. So that was the car that he was successful in period as well. Then.
Yeah. Which he bought from WRT, and they sort of ran it for him, and it was just a great reunion. Yeah. And yeah, as he says, he's looking after Louis Pret in the Garage 59 McLaren monogas driver. Stefan French by birth, comes from Caen, but has been a Monaco resident for 3 decades or so now. Right, so we're almost there after the hiatus, about a minute and a half or so before the green lights go on at the end of the pit lane. And for some, it's going to be all a bit harum-scarum, this. You can see the fast lane open, the queue of cars ready to go, including Zamin Jeffer at the head of it, number 26 Ferrari. Number 76 Mercedes is another car that has at least got a time in, albeit a 1:59.4 as an average, but a time was posted by Amir Naran before the stoppage. But imminently we will be good to go. And of course, this rather throws some of the calculations out of the window, not only in terms of time available, but temperature available as well, because now temperature's starting to fall, not by much, but just a little. And so Q4 is going to be happening, the best part of 45, 50 minutes later than planned. Yep. So it's going to be much cooler than maybe the teams had initially factored in.
Yep, they say it doesn't drop that much. Say last night it only dropped by, 4 or 5 degrees, not much more than that. But yes, it will all have an impact on the way that the tyre works, on the way that the car works. And we'll wait and see as to what may well be happening. We're about 30 seconds away from going green at the end of the pit lane. It looked as though it was the number 25 Ferrari that was sitting there at the end of pit lane as the first car to go out, which will be the AF Corsa car of Marco Pulcini for this section of it. So it looks as though it is Optimum Motorsport that is next up. That's Ollie Milroy, who's keen to get on with it because he hasn't posted a lap time. And then it will be the number 46 BMW that is next up, which is going to be Nick Yaloli, it will be, won't it, who is next up. And has that car posted a lap time, number 46 BMW, as we go green at the end of the pit lane. Dries Van Tor, I should say, who is back in the wheel of the car, isn't it? Yeah, I was thinking it wasn't Dries because we'd spoken to him, but he is in the car. And that's another car that needs to crack on because it's not done a lap. But we finally go green. Great work by everybody to get it done in the timescale.
So the cars down the pit lane, underneath the circuit, through the tunnel that brings them out into... even though it's dark around the circuit, it's still very, very bright. The floodlights around this circuit work wonders and all add to the spectacle. And of course, given the temperatures, nighttime running at circuits in the UAE is commonplace. It's cooler, it's more acceptable for drivers and of course for marshals, who have a pretty arduous task. The UAE racing season is really 5 months, from sort of November all the way through to March, and a lot of racing gets crammed in a pretty short space of time. So the circuits maximise the opportunity. Timetables such as they are go as late into the day as possible. Hence here, Dubai Autodrome, and although it's not in the UAE, the Bahrain circuit, for example, all have these excellent floodlights. And here it just adds to the appeal, doesn't it, of the charm of another desert circuit. All right, so the pit lane emptying, and we're down to 6.5 minutes already, and we haven't got a car onto a flying lap.
No, and that's the critical part, is that you've got to crack on. Some of these outlaps might be as quick as they possibly can, but as Stefano Ortelli made a very valid point, you then don't want to put even more pressure on yourself to try and get a quick outlap to then start the flying lap as soon as possible and then make any sort of mistake or anything like that. So We will get there. They will all get there. I'm loving the new camera angle as well from the pit lane exit, where we've got one through the tunnel as the cars go underneath the circuit to rejoin. That's a camera angle we've not been afforded in the past, and really does allow you to see just how tight and how accurate the cars need to be at pit lane exit. They're still on the pit lane limiter at that point. Yeah. It's not till further out that you come off the pit lane limiter, but you still need to try and get through that section as quickly as you possibly can. So you can see on occasions the cars are fairly close to the wall as they go through that tunnel. As we're about to get the first car on the flying lap, so over the start-finish line goes the Ferrari to start its flying lap.
And 5.5 minutes to go. So if you haven't delivered yet, you're going to have to, and for some of them that means they're going to have to run right up to the checkered flag perhaps to make sure that they get the best lap in when the tyres are at that little bit better operating temperature. So right now, Joel Sturm, who's done the best lap, a 151.226 within Q2. And number 26, then, the Zarmin Jaffer Ferrari you're looking at. He's raced Clio's over here. He has raced in the NGK Racing Series, which is the sort of GT series that runs in Dubai. He's raced in India. He did have a brief spell in the UK, racing in the BARC Formula Renault Championship, but that's going back well over a decade. So Zarmin Jaffer breaks for the chicane, the end of the back straight, accelerates now, gets back onto the power and makes the run down towards that long looping left-hander. Speed building all the time at this point, but it's not necessarily going to be his sector times that we need to be looking for. Certainly no purples as yet, absolute best, so tyres still recovering the warmth after that long break.
Yep, so we haven't yet seen anybody go absolute best as yet, but Zarmin Jaffer is at this stage going quicker through sector 1 and quicker through sector 2 than he has previously gone. He heads up towards turn number 15, turn number 16 very shortly, and will accelerate his way up towards the start-finish line. So underneath the hotel for the moment. Turn 15 is the next one that he will get to. He has gone quicker through the first sector than he's previously gone, not quite as quick as others out on circuit, quicker through the second sector than he has previously gone. Again, not quite as quick as some others, but are putting in times behind him. And what is the lap going to look like? Out of turn number 16, over the start-finish line, and the Ferrari that is second quickest on average times is going to go through and is now fifth quickest on average time. So 1 minute 54.369 from that car.
So we wait the improvement out of the likes of Goetz and Van Thor and Auer and Stoltz. Kevin Say goes up to second now, number 93. Ollie Milroy goes third, number 27 McLaren. Dominic Baumann goes fourth. Sheldon van der Linde was briefly fifth, but that's all changed because Goetz goes third then, number 14. Maxi Goetz goes up to third fastest. And now with every passing car, so the order starts to shuffle, doesn't it? We wait for a Lukas Stoltz lap time, but it's coming. Louis Pret goes by and goes second fastest. Stefano Ortelli was right to praise it because that was the absolute best in the last sector. Louis Pret over the timing line has just gone Scott Andrews, no improvement. The Corinna Gerstner Mercedes AMG goes by. Dominic Baumann through, but stays fifth fastest. So it's the Lukas and the Lucases, Luca Stoltz, Lukas Auer, that we're keeping an eye to, because the that time is awaited and they are on a flying lap right now.
Lukas Auer goes fourth quickest, so up to fourth, but straight away Lukas Stoltz goes quicker, and the number 99 Mercedes AMG Group M Mercedes now is up into third quickest with a average lap time of 1 minute 51.378. So it's Porsche, McLaren, Mercedes at the moment. We've also just seen an improvement further down the order. The one we need to keep an eye on is Dries Van Thor at the moment, because that car is about 15 seconds away from getting over the start-finish line, but the sector time's not suggesting that it's quite come together.
No, indeed, but at this stage of the evening, with 2 minutes to go, yeah, he'll get another lap out of it, but he just needs a banker lap, doesn't he, just in case. So Van Thor is about to break the beam. He goes through now, and the net result of all of that is that he goes fourth fastest, so Dries Van Thor gets himself into the ballpark, just ahead of his BMW stablemate, Sheldon van der Linde. So it's Sturm, Pret, Stoltz, Van Thor, van der Linde, Goetz in order, but that is the average order rather than the session order.
Easy to keep track of the average order at this stage, because that ultimately is what will form the grid. We're just keeping an eye, a guy on what's going on with the Audi at the moment, which is in the hands of Gregory Survey, and that heads down in towards the braking area at turn number 4. So important to get a clean exit out of this corner. This is again another corner where several cars have been done for track limits, because you need to get off that corner as quickly. You see there that Gregory Servet is looking to try and get any sort of toe that he can from the car ahead of him, and that was the number 46 Dries van Thor BMW that is not on a flying lap this time through. So Dries, I think, will be destined for the pit lane at the end of this lap, and we're now into the final 60 seconds of part 2 of qualifying.
Okay, so the flag imminent, therefore. Looking at sectors, there are still greens, personal bests, and therefore improvements can still come. Lucas Auer goes through and gets himself up to 5th fastest then. 99 goes by, which is Lucas Stoltz, stays 3rd. That lap ebbed away a little bit towards the end. And just over half a minute remains as number 2 Audi hustles on. Gregory Servet at the wheel of that car. Number 4 Porsche has gone over the timing line. Stephen Grove, not a significant improvement. And so as there, number 32 Dries van Thor hustles on. Sorry, Sheldon van der Linde, I should say, hustles on. Force of habit, having Dries van Thor in 32. Sheldon van der Linde is 7th at the moment, and looking to try to improve on this lap, but the sector suggests otherwise.
Yeah, so it doesn't look as though he is likely to improve. Al-Faisal Al-Zubair at the wheel of the number 3 2Cs Mercedes. You can see the car moving around on him as he's trying to wrestle the thing as he heads through turns number 12 and 13, up towards turn number 14 now. The last lap time that he did was his best in the session, 1 minute 52.227, because that is a car that we didn't see out in part 1 of qualifying. That is its average time as well. And what is this going to look like this time? He's sticking with the lap. He's not destined for the pit lane as others have done at the end of the lap. Sector time suggesting it's probably not likely to be an improvement, and indeed it was not. It was the best part of 2 seconds slower than his previous best, which begs the question why he stuck with it.
Yes, indeed. I don't have an immediate answer to that, but you're right, it's a slightly curious one. So again, some bail early and come into the pits, others take the flag on the track, and we are then now with 10 minutes and counting until Q3 gets underway. Over the timing line just goes Dominic Baumann. We're looking at 46 then, the Van Thor BMW, set to be given over to, for the purposes of Q3. Yellowly.
I think Ollie Milroy might be one to watch for, because the Optimum Motorsport McLaren is 6th quickest at the moment, and Ollie Milroy's gone through both the first and the second sectors quicker than he's previously gone. He's about 20 seconds away from completing the lap as the pit lane ever more fills up. And Ollie Milroy looking to try and press on again. That is another Pro-Am car, but it's a Pro-Am car with only 3 drivers in it, because we didn't see it appear in the first session. And is Ollie Milroy going to stick with the lap? He should be coming up towards the checkered flag any second now, and through he goes, and is 6th quickest. It was an improved lap time, 1 minute 51.409, but didn't net him an extra position.
No, stays 6th in that car that he shares with Rob Bell and Mark Radcliffe. So Q2 finally done. The second part seems to absolutely fly by, whereas the stoppage triggered by Stefano Costatini threw everybody's run plan up in the air. Right, so 2 more segments of the qualifying session to go. Cars then make their way down the pit lane. Some teams already cycling through the driver change, other teams ready to receive the cars that have stayed out right to the flag, plus that in lap.
Interesting that Dries van Thor, when he got out of the car, was shaking his head, so maybe not quite as happy with that as he would have liked.
No, he'd be somewhat disappointed with that. What about the qualifying, do you think, from the car that was quickest in that session? Joel Sturm at the wheel of what is an AM-class car, the Porsche, compared to the company he was keeping in that session. That, for me, looks impressive.
Yeah, I mean, it's an AM-class car, yes, but I mean, he's not an AM.
No.
He's a quick driver, but the driver grading allows it to go to the AM category. But yeah, I mean, to be quicker than those he is quicker than, had it been a clean, uninterrupted 15-minute run, I'm not sure it would have happened. Yeah. I think he was good. He got the lap in early, and the second part never came alive in the same way. It was a little bit cooler, yes. Maybe they couldn't get the tyres turned on in quite the same speed that he did early on. So it's a good effort. It illustrates the importance of a banker lap early on, even in a short 15-minute session, because you just never know. But that said, he's been impressive all weekend, because twice in the tests yesterday he was topping the times.
Top of the times, yeah. Yeah, and when you think that he's quicker than Lucas Stoltz, Dries van Thor, Lucas Auer, Ollie Milroy, Maxi Goetz, Dominic Baumann, that's some names to be ahead of.
Absolutely. I mean, he is the star turn in that car, no question. But he is very definitely a driver to look out for over the course of the weekend, and I suspect they will give him the Lions' share of the work as well, because he's got very, very good pace. Konstantin Dresler has raced at GT4 level. Dustin Blattner has done a relatively limited amount in regional Porsche club racing, but Joel Sturm is the star. So right now, qualifying order after Q3, it is number 25 Ferrari from 21 Porsche, number 11 Ferrari third. These are the drivers in most recently. Fourth quickest is the Garage 59 Louis Pret. McLaren fifth, the Racing 1, number 26 Ferrari, and then 99 Mercedes to be sixth. Number 46 BMW, Dries Van Thort seventh, ahead of Lucas Auer, Ollie Milroy eighth, Ollie Milroy ninth on the aggregate, and Kevin Say is 10th. So the average giving you the provisional grid, but number 25 Ferrari, with the good efforts of Alessio Rovera earlier on, still being in good stead. Marco Pulcini's lap time was a 1:56.4, so quite a disparity between the two. But the average that's being shown for that car is not the average that's being shown on the graphic, so I'm slightly hesitant to put too much credence after that. So the fast lane is open. We are within the last 5.5 minutes before the lights go green at the end of the pit lane once again to get the next part of qualifying underway. And the Porsche of Joel Sturm has been very good thus far, but it's a nice jumbled grid order. Again, we keep saying it, but how relevant the grid will be after the first couple of laps discussed. But it does at least get you out of traffic early on. It gets you out of any potential dramas.
Yeah, absolutely. And it also depends as to what their run plan is for the race. What we did see last year, David, was at the end of the first lap, we saw cars coming into the pit lane. You've got these 10 imposed pit stops that you have to do over the course of not quite the 12 hours, because they all have to be done after, is it 11 hours and 15 minutes, something like that?
Yep.
But you've got those, and you can't do any of those under safety car unless you've got a 5-minute pit stop because you're doing mechanical issues with the car. Then you could count one under a pit stop. But what we did see last year was some cars come into the pit lane at the end of the first lap purely because they hadn't quite qualified where they wanted to. It got them out of traffic, ticked off one of those imposed pit stops and got them back out onto circuit into clean air.
It did, yes, and we had one of the top two cars come in at the end of lap 1 and the other from the same team in at the end of the first hour. They finished 1 and 2, so there was,
it didn't make a great deal of difference.
Limited amount of difference between the strategies, but it kept us guessing for 12 hours. So, yes, we'll be well versed this year in expecting cars in at the end of the first few laps, lap 1 onwards. And you can pit at the end of lap 1, that regulation remains. Right, so we've got just 3 minutes before the cars are released, but actually the fast lane as yet hasn't attracted any takers, has it? They're being a little bit more relaxed about it this time around, but maybe you'll find everybody all go scampering out at the start, because 1 or 2 teams I think might just have been bitten in that last session by being unable to get a time in early.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think they'll want to make sure they get that banker lap in nice and early, particularly if they were the ones that missed out in the earlier session. They'll be wanting to make sure that they can get straight out there in this one. Qualifying will start at 19:49, which is about 2.5 minutes away at the moment. But as Alan said, the pit lane, the fast lane, is open. At the moment, we're not seeing any of the mechanics. The telltale sign is when mechanics start to run out from the back of the garages out with their preheated Pirelli tyres and start bolting them on the cars. And that's not quite happening at the moment, Alan.
And my advice is keep out of their way because they are stopping for no one.
He says from a safe distance. Yes.
Yes, I was rather caught out when we had the restart last time because all of a sudden it becomes terribly busy at the back of the garages and then running through the garages as well, because not only do they leave it to the very last minute to get the tyres onto the car, but also it was a fairly late in the day ETA for the restart, so it was quite a frantic place down here in pit lane.
Right, well, hold on to your hat because you're about 1.5 minutes away from having a mass exodus of GT cars.
I'm keeping well out of the way way, David, well out of the way.
Okay, he says from Dubai, taking refuge. So very shortly, Q3 will be good to go. And as the grid starts to take a little bit more shape, certainly into the end of this, into Q4, we'll be able to look at where the IGTC Championship players are as well in relation to a grid position. So drivers good to go, everyone strapped into a car that's able. Of course, we aren't expecting to see number 12 Porsche again. Hopefully we will tomorrow, but even the jury is out on that.
Funnily enough, David, I'm in front of the garage at the moment,
Ah.
so I'm able to assess the damage. There is not frantic work happening on the car as you might expect, but moreover, a meeting of the team taking place beside the car. So there's about 6 guys from the team all having a discussion at the moment. No work is going on at the moment.
Okay, there's an assessment that's supposed to be made as to how long it will take, can we do it, have we got the parts, relative to what the customer might want, because it's an Pro-Am car. There'll be people paying for a drive, and they kind of expect a service, don't they? But if it's just beyond repair, there's not much you can do, I guess.
And it's weird because I've got a very happy, smiley Joel on one side of the garage and the garage door down on the other side, and assessing the damage on the other car.
Watch this space, therefore, but we will await news. Fingers crossed, because it was, before the incident, one of the nicest liveries that we had. Right, Mark, green flag.
I thought it was the nicest livery. When I was walking down the pit lane, it really stands out. It's gorgeous. It's such a shame.
It is. You don't quite see the detail of it, do you, when you're watching on the television and when you're close up. So green flag comes out, and only one car, amazingly, was queuing at the end of the pit lane, and that was Amir Naram at the wheel of the 76 McLaren. Car number 76, the team is 76, digit number 7, then large T and SIX. So 76, it's always quite confusing, isn't it, when they name the team exactly the same number as the car. So that was the first one that was out. It looks as though Miguel Ramos is out at the wheel of the number 61 AF Corsa Ferrari, so he could certainly be one to watch for this one. For the Gosner family, Manuela is out at the wheel of the number 73 car, and for the number 26 Ferrari, which is the OJ Lifestyle Racing by Racing 1 car, that is going to have Omar Jackson behind the wheel. Kenny Harble is out at the wheel of the Sun Energy 1 car. Your Australian friend, who is a real character. You're talking about he's an enthusiast, but he's a brilliant character as well as Kenny Harble.
Absolutely. I think in his early days he got himself in a few scrapes, but he's now run a hugely successful business. He's gone from being a mechanic on a Peter Brock Holden as a spotty teenager to owning the car, to racing at, to winning at, and owning a house at Bathurst. I've got a house on Conrod Strait. Came to Europe a few years ago, instantly enjoyed what he saw in GT racing with SRO, and has been a mainstay of IGTC. Had his big accident at Spa in practice back in June, and this is his first race back. He watched his car from afar winning its class in the race, but he was in a hospital bed in Liège, and there was a huge saga attached to the replacement driver for that, which we'll come back to in the race maybe. But Kenny Harble has not lost his good grin and a sense of enjoying his racing, and to come back here, it's great to have him back on track, and he's been, as I say, a really good character within IGTC these last few seasons.
I'm sure we'll catch up with him, or Alan will, over the course of the weekend, but he is going to be the first of the drivers that is now onto the flying lap. So over the start-finish line goes Kenny Harble, onto the flying lap. Nice and neat and tidy up towards turn number 1. Important to get a good clean exit off turn number 1, as we were hearing from Valentino Rossi, because then you carry all of that momentum through the uphill section at turn number 1, over the crest at turn number 3, and then into the section of the circuit where Stefano Constantini was unfortunately caught out by the Porsche, which speared its way right and into those barriers, which cost us all of that time earlier on in qualifying. So he is onto a flying lap, making his, in fact it's now just changed actually, he's onto the flying lap and going well. We need to watch out for Matt Topham as well at the wheel of the 76 Mercedes, the Dayglow orange car. You can't miss it. Early stages of it, but not a bad first sector time from him.
No, it is an absolute best thus far, but so few people have done a proper sector time, so it's a little bit misleading. But as we get through qualifying, as I say, now it all starts to focus around the pros, like Nick Yellerly, like Charles Weerts. Tim Heinemann will be one to watch as well in number 33, the Herbert Porsche, because he's a GT star of the future. And gradually we'll start to shake out an order, as in the meantime Matt Topham accelerates on now down towards turn 9. loops his way around at the top end of the circuit back towards as he will come, speed building briefly, and then he's onto the brakes as he wriggles his way through the next sequence of corners, bringing him back towards the hotel and the harbour. Other absolute best in sectors for Giorgio Senagiotto and also to the Finn Milka Panu.
Certainly looking good still for Matt Topham. His first sector time still about 3/10 down then on the ultimate best now of Giorgio Senagiotto. But for Matt Topham, he's about to come up towards a conclusion at the end of the lap. The Pro-Am GT4 champion in the British GT Championship from a couple of seasons ago. And Matt Topham pops in a 1:55.165 as the first flying time in this session. But couple that to the time that was popped in the car earlier on, it still only sees the car 25th overall on average times.
Yeah, indeed. But you know, when we get to the race, it's a class result thereafter, isn't it? Not an overall
category. Yeah.
So pick your battle in a sense. So yeah, we can look at this in terms of an overall time, but. The best thus far, then, is to Miguel Ramos in a Ferrari, who we got used to seeing in McLarens all year, but a change of car because a deal came up, and he thought, why not? So a bit of fun in the end of the season. Miguel Ramos, if you like, epitomises GT racing. Very quick, very good driver, runs a good business, goes racing, does it very, very well. Alan for the pits.
Can I just update you on the number 12 Porsche, because I said I didn't think it was highly likely that we're going to see the car tomorrow. I have just spoken to one of the team. Well, I say spoken, I just put thumbs up or thumbs down, and the thumb was down. So I think it is unlikely. I'm not going to say that's official. The team will, of course, announce when it becomes official, but I think it's highly unlikely that we're going to see the number 12 car tomorrow, which is a huge, huge shame.
It is indeed, Alan, thanks. So perhaps it's not a surprise given the damage, and you know, they've got, what, 14 hours or so before the start of the race, but it's a big ask to get guys to work all through the night and then operate the car in a 12-hour race in these temperatures, even if, come back to the original point, even if you've got the bits.
Got the bits to do it. Yeah, it was a significant incident, wasn't it? And a large amount of damage was caused there. Lots of bouncing up and down on the nose of the number 51 car as it came into the braking area there for turn number 5. So that's the AF Corsa number 51 Ferrari 488 that is in the hands of Christoph Ulrich for this one. That's another car that runs in the AM category. Who's out there and on a quick lap at the moment? Well, the number 25 AF Corsa Ferrari in the hands of Giorgio Senagiotto is going well. Absolute best through the first sector of the lap. And Brendan Grove at the wheel of the Grove Racing Porsche, absolute best through the second sector of the lap at the wheel of the number 4 car.
And if you're not on a quick lap, you should be, because you've only got 8.5 minutes to go. As way out wide, rattling over the curb there, goes the number 25 AF Corsa run Ferrari. Giorgio Senagiotto at the wheel of it, and he is still hustling on. Another experienced driver is Senagiotto, been in GT racing for many a long year. Comes up through turn 14 now, then underneath the hotel. The right-hand kink, and then the sharp right at the end remains, and Senagiotto then hustles on. And what have we got? 8 minutes on the clock. So let's see where this one is going to put him. At the moment, the time to beat is a 1:51.1. He was down in the middle sector, a 1:51.5. So it's not the best lap of Q3. But what he needs to do is try and edge up the order, and 13th is where it puts him.
Yeah, I think it was that rattle over the curb in the middle sector that probably cost him, and he certainly got very close to the wall as he came out of turn number 14 there as well. Almost that wing mirror was brushing the Armco barrier as he came out of 14.
Yeah, you can see why Mauro Engel likened that to Macau earlier on, can't you, with just how close to the wall you get. Alexander West, it's at the top of the times at the moment. Scrub that. Mikael Grenier ahead of Frankie Bird then. The two Grouper M Mercedes go 1 and 2 in the order for the moment. Ahead of Nick Yellerlit, Fabian Schiller 4th, Charles Wirtz 5th, and then 6th is number 21 now with Dustin Blattner at the wheel. The Porsche that Joel Stern was hustling around earlier on in the session.
Yes, that's Mercedes, BMW, Mercedes, BMW. Then it's Porsche, Mercedes, Porsche, McLaren, and Mercedes being the top 10 at the moment. Well, Giorgio Senagiotto, after that close moment, is still in the first sector as things currently stand, and is looking as though he is slightly slower through that first sector. So now he's into sector 2 now, so he may well back off this lap. He's not that much slower than he's previously gone by the first sector. It probably depends as to how the second sector goes, as to whether he sticks with it or not at this stage. But who is out there and going quickly? The car that is already on average lap times at the top of the pile at the moment. The number 99 car in the hands of Mikael Grenier has just gone better than he's gone through the first sector, David. Absolute best through the second sector.
Yeah, Mikael Grenier, another Mercedes specialist these days, but after a few years' break, came back into racing in Europe in Lamborghinis and has made, as I say, a good name for himself ever since. Also looking very rapid now, Oliver Goethe, moving across from Formula 3, in which he was a race winner at Silverstone this year, the FIA Championship. He's, for Garage 59, the ultimate fastest, but it's the average for the grid. Number 4 turns through Stephen Grove on screen at the moment. Others hustle on. We await for Grenier's last lap. It is a 51.364, so quicker still, and stays top on the average.
Yep, so he'll be more than pleased with that. Back to what's going on in Herbert Motorsport. Tim Heinemann, who is at the wheel of the number 33 Porsche. Last lap time that Tim did was a 1 minute 45.6, which isn't his best in this session so far. There's a huge chunk of traffic just up the road as well that he might need to deal with. And this is exactly what they don't want, isn't it, David? Mercedes, 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 all in a line, heading up in towards braking area for corner, and that's just going to slow all of them down.
Yeah, because they all want the optimum lap time, don't they? I mean, the green one at the back is the Gustner car, which you can kind of ignore because it's an AM category car and it won't be as rapid. It's Manuela at the wheel of it, but for Mikael Grenier in the yellow livery, for Fabian Schiller behind, same car, Mercedes AMG GT3, 2 different teams operating them. It's Grupper M versus 2Cs, but both here to try and score points and win for Mercedes AMG come the end of tomorrow.
Yep, so both within touching distance of each other, but not so much so it's going to cause a huge amount of aero wash, I wouldn't have thought, onto the second of those 2 cars. So up towards the braking area for turn 13, underneath the hotel, and up towards turn number 14, still pressing on. Mikael Grenier, again, so close to the wall as he came out of that corner, almost brushing the car up against the wall, but still able to try and push on up towards turn 15 and turn 16. Sector times, again, not looking as though there's going to be a great deal of improvement as he comes over the start-finish line. I'd imagine it's a slightly slower lap than he's done in the past, but the car to watch out for, I'd say, at the moment is the Herbert Motorsport Porsche in the hands of Tim Heinemann, who through Sector 1 and Sector 2 was flying, but didn't quite knit it together in Sector 3.
Can I get excited though again about Oliver Goethe, because he has done the fastest time of the session, and bearing in mind he's never driven a GT3 car in anger until this weekend. He's never raced a GT3 machine. I think that's pretty exceptional. Getting a replay there of how close to the wall Mikael Grenier was coming out of turn 14. Into the pit lane has come Manuela Gustner, and the session has got 4 more minutes to go. In has come Nick Yellowly, 3rd in the average at the moment, number 46 BMW.
I think we've had at least one car scrape the wall probably at turn number 14. And I think
only one.
Well, for sure, I'm sure Isa Al Khalifa has, because I'm sure I can see the right-hand wing mirror on that Mercedes had been folded round, and about the only place you're going to do that is touching the Armco Barrett at the exit of turn number 14.
Must have been a mechanic that bumped it. Wouldn't be the driver. Wouldn't be the driver's fault. So right now, Mikael Grenier accelerates down towards turns 6 and 7 to the chicane, and then down towards 9, which is that looping hairpin at the other end of the back straight, if you like, the back part of the circuit, broken up by that chicane, which has always proved to be a good overtaking opportunity. And then that long hairpin then brings you into a rather more wriggly section of the circuit, a little bit slower speed because you're going right, you're going left, you're going right, you're going underneath the hotel. The session's got 3 minutes on the clock. And what about this lap for Grenier? Started all right, but he's dropped time in the middle.
Yeah, he has, hasn't he? Yeah, started well, but just a little bit down on his previous best time through the second sector. See what's going on down there in the garage at the moment, with Nick Yellowly about to jump on board the car that he shares with Valentino Rossi for this weekend. But Mikael Grenier back over the start-finish line to conclude the lap. It was slower. He did lose time, not just in the second sector, but in the third sector in the end. However, the number 99 Mercedes, the team Group M car, still remains, on average times, top of the times as we head into the final 2.5 minutes of qualifying part 2.
So, of course, now the BMW team. More drama because we've got Matt Topham in the wall, and with 2.5 minutes on the clock, that's at the end of the back straight, isn't it? Past the support pits.
Just before turn 9, yeah.
Red flag again. So the session is stopped. Now, I wonder whether that will be restarted, because 2 minutes 18, you could just about start a flying lap, but only if you're at the head of the queue. We'll wait and see as the clock marches on. Anyway, the evening with another race to run yet has to be factored in. But Matt Topham looks like he's just lost it under braking and has hit the wall and front damage to the car, so there are worried faces. In Garage 59, they think, are we done for that session? Are we the fastest? For the moment, you are.
Traditionally, after this qualifying session, they put on a very nice harbourside barbecue with food from around the world. I've got a feeling we're going to have a few burnt sausages tonight, aren't we?
It's funny, I was thinking exactly the same earlier on with the first delay. Matt Topham out of the car immediately. I did mention earlier on, I saw one of the Ferraris, was it the 51 Ferrari, that was bouncing quite significantly into that braking area there. So maybe it was just on those slight bumps that unsettled the car again for Matt Topham. But Matt, again, is not an inexperienced driver. Hasn't done a lot of GT3 racing, but just got caught out clearly on the run up towards turn 9.
Session not resumed either, because with little time of relevance in it, we need to crack on. So Q3 ends under a red flag. So yeah, Matt Topham, new to GT3 machinery, new to the circuit, and new to the Mercedes, therefore, of course, being caught out. But interesting that it's happening now with, if you've gone through the weekend, they've had a little bit more time in the car. Maybe the confidence is creeping in and drivers pushing just that little bit too hard. But yeah, it's easy to say that from up here. So the track will need cleaning, the car will need retrieving as well, and then we can go for the last 15 minutes of the session. And then the teams can enjoy what Alan was just talking about, the harbourside dinner. Well, it might be harbourside breakfast at this rate, but we've, in theory, only got 15 minutes left of qualifying.
Yeah, this incident shouldn't take too long to sort out. There is a little dint in the barrier where the car made contact with it, but it's largely just the Mercedes that needs scooping up, and, of course, all of the bits of carbon fibre bodywork and
that's the longer bit, isn't it?
That would have strewed themselves around the circuit. Yeah, that does amazingly take longer, because it's, even the smallest of shards, can soon penetrate a tyre and cause problems. So as ever, it's not just recovery of the car, it's all of the sweeping that needs to be done as well. And you could already see, because it is banked far more now, turn number 9, because of the reprofiling of that part of the circuit, that instantly all of the coolant is trickling across the circuit as well.
So cars to the pits, cars back to the teams, and a reset to be a driver change, and then we'll go again. Hopefully the 76 Mercedes will be good to resume the fray tomorrow, but it won't make Q4. See the damage done at the front, and so yes, there'll be again a little delay anyway while the circuit is attended to and the car is moved.
Yeah, so that'll be Wayne Mars that won't get the opportunity to get behind the wheel of that car. I'm sure that 76 will have all of the parts available to get that car sorted. Again, you can see the mechanics all looking on as well. Jody Firth, who's the team manager there, isn't he, will be for this event, making sure that they can assess the car instantly and start to get the parts out. And again, I suspect we won't see many of the 76 garage at the dinner later on. They've got other things in hand now to deal with.
They've got to get their teeth into something else, haven't they?
Yeah.
Which is the repair work. Kenny Habul then will give 75 over for the final part of qualifying.
And that for me is the livery that really stands out at night under these lights. It's a bit like last year when we had Ian Loggy out in the D2 livery car at this event. Yeah, that metallic under these lights really does look very good.
It does, doesn't it? In contrast, the 76, yes, it's a distinctive colour scheme, but it's not quite as creative. It's also a bit battered around the gills, and that needs to be removed. So Matt Topham is the driver who is out of the car, having hit the barrier at the turn 5 part of the circuit, as it says on the timing screen. And we will shortly have a clear road, and then we can be in business for the final part of qualifying. But all of this to determine a grid that goes out of the window, of course, as soon as 12 hours of racing starts. But it is part of the fascination of the championship that you have these qualifying sessions where you have the average of the drivers and everybody has to contribute to their grid position.
I wanted to have a chat to Oliver Goethe. He's all smiles. It took a little while to get out of the car, but that was superb lap.
Yeah, it was a really good lap. All 3 laps were not too bad, all in the 50s. So, yeah, it's a great start to the weekend. The 2 others did a good job so far. Now it's my brother's time.
What's the rivalry like with your brother?
It's a healthy rivalry. We both want to win, so we have to work together to do that.
Well, I've got good news for you. He was smiling when you came into the garage, so that's good. That's the first step.
Yeah, that's good. Obviously, we want to beat each other, but we also want to win the race, so that's the important bit.
Team effort, of course. Clearly, the car is good.
Yeah, the car felt amazing in the fresh air with the new tires, low fuel, everything felt really good. I got to really push the limits now, so felt nice.
I noticed you doing, when we had that long delay, it was a delay of about 40 minutes or 45 minutes, you were doing a few stretches, getting limbered up.
Yeah, we were just practicing squats, to be honest, with my brother. So, yeah, just to make time pass quicker, I guess.
Yeah, because it's difficult. I was talking to Stefan Ortelli about keeping your focus during a long gap like that.
Yeah, you have to stay focused. It was a really long red flag, so you can start to lose the concentration, exactly, and yeah, you just got to remain focused. And
okay, well, I'm very pleased to say you didn't lose concentration. Far from it. I think it focused your concentration. That was superb. Well done.
Thank you very much.
There
Thank you.
Go. Oliver Goethe down here, or I think I can call him Ollie. We're friends now. I have a feeling we might talk to him again over the course of this weekend.
Yeah, he's certainly a very quick young man, the former Euro Formula Open champion from 2022, who was racing out in Macau, was he not, a few weekends ago, David?
Yeah, in the Formula 3 race, Formula 3 Grand Prix. Having won at Silverstone back in the summer in the reverse grid race on Grand Prix morning, but it was a really impressive drive. And Benji Goethe, his brother, when he came into GT racing as a 16-year-old, really found it quite a challenge, and it took a season or two before he really got into the groove, and has been one of the most improved drivers in recent seasons. You know, he's gone from a really horrible debut that was at a very wet Monza but didn't do him any favours, to being a category champion.
Yeah, in the Enduro, GT World Challenge Europe, silver category. And very mature, he's still only 19 years of age, Oliver Goethe. Very mature head on young shoulders.
I mean, they've had a lot of help from Stuart
Hall,
who's comes from a racing family, good racer himself, still races, has his own team, driver coaching, looks after the Rothgo collection for old Goethe, their father, and Stuart was in the pit lane when Oliver won his Formula 3 race at Silverstone, and was as elated as him, because all the effort he'd put in. And Stuart was fourth at Le Mans. He knows what he's doing.
He joined us in the commentary box last year. He popped up, didn't he?
Yeah. He did indeed. We've not seen him here this year yet, but hopefully he is here. But all those lessons learnt, put into practice. And I think Stuart even said at one point last year, I can't teach them much more. But they're making good. And Dad's here as well, who's done some racing in his time, Roald. So it's very much a family outing at the end of the season.
Yeah, he's raced in this before. He's raced in the Gulf 12 Hour before as Roald.
Yeah.
Goethe. The start time is scheduled to be about 5 minutes' time, which means we might be able to head back down to the pit lane, and Alan Hyde, who I thought had opened up his microphone and was wanting to chat to us, but he's disappeared again now. So we will wait and see. Oh, you're back, Alan, are you? Right.
Alan has gone crackly.
Right, he's changing the battery. He's gone all crackly on us. Right, okay. So, it shouldn't take too much longer. It did look as though it was largely just a case of tidying up the car and sweeping it up.
Yes, indeed. So we lose that from Q4, and we appear to have lost the car collection Motorsport Porsche number 12 from the weekend, which is a real shame, especially as that's one of the IGTC registered cars that therefore would have scored some points. But anyway, yes, we will see. It might just be that the mechanic was giving an instant "it's not good" thumbs down, rather than "we're off to the bar for 24 hours" type thumbs down. So we shall see. Once qualifying is done, when we've got a grid, we'll worry about the walking wounded, as it were. But already on the flatbed is the Mercedes, debris swept, and in fairness, given the temperatures, any coolant that goes down doesn't stay there for long, does it?
No, absolutely not. No, it'll soon get sorted out. I was just having a quick look at exactly the way the regulation is written. Should not every driver be able to qualify the car? And what it says is, should a driver not set a time in a qualifying session, the car will be permitted to start by the race, provided the other nominated drivers in the car have set a time. So Matt Topham did set a time in that number 76 car, and Amir Naran did set a time as well. The grid position, however, where not all drivers have set an average time, is determined by averaging the remaining drivers that have entered the car. There's a grid drop of 10 places. Well, on the basis of that car was 24th out of the 25 anyway, it's going to the back regardless.
That's true enough. And just to prove the global reach of GT racing, delighted to know that we are being watched and listened to by GT fans in the PRI esports arena, where Fanatec GT World Challenge, powered by AWS America is in action, so they've got their own race out there. They've got international races through the Gulf 12 Hours, the Lenovo Gulf 12 Hours, and IGTC on the screens as well. So virtual GT and real world GT racing meeting in America while we're in the Gulf.
There's going to be some bleary eyes, aren't there, by the time they've got through all of that lot?
Indeed. And we are almost good to go because the fast lane is open then.
I did promise you an interview with Joel Sturm, didn't I? Well, I've just caught up with him, and he's here with me now. He's still smiling. That was a good little segment for you.
Yeah, it was a pretty good session, I would say. Post the red flag, didn't play in hand for many of the other cars, so pretty lucky to have the lap in and also improving afterwards. So, yeah, decent session.
The Porsches have looked good over the last couple of days and today.
Yeah, so far it looks pretty strong for us, but I think Ferrari is also pretty strong. We saw that in the first qualifying session, so yeah, it will be an interesting race for sure.
It's always a tricky thing when I talk to a driver on a side of the garage that's really happy, and then over on the other side of the garage it's looking like bad news.
Yeah, for sure. It's very unlucky for the other car. I don't know if they could start. It doesn't really look like it. So, of course, it's always difficult then for the team.
Really difficult. So you've got an honour to uphold, and so far you're doing a jolly good job of doing it.
Yeah, so far it's looking all good for us.
Thank you, Joel. Thank you very much indeed. See, he hasn't lost the smile. Still smiling. That was about 25 minutes ago, wasn't it?
Hey, listen, if you're a Porsche racer and you've got this as the circuit and you're the fastest, who's surprised he's grinning? I don't blame him.
You're right, you're right.
Good stuff, Alan. Well done. So Joel Sturm, I think we'll hear again from during the course of the race because no doubt he will be very, very rapid within that car collection car. But I think he was touching on what we rather feared, wasn't he? That the other one ain't looking so promising for a start.
Yeah, no, it was always going to be a tough call, wasn't it? When you looked at the amount of damage and how severe it was with the speed that the car hit the barrier. Then, yeah, and as you made a very, very valid point, it's not as though you're on mainland Europe and it's a lot easier to send someone off if needs be overnight to Stuttgart to pick some bits up and get back. It ain't going to happen if it wasn't in the crate when it came out here.
No, indeed, sad to say. But you never know. They might surprise us yet, so we shall see. We have the fast lane open. We are just within 2 minutes of a green flag at the end of the pit lane, as the final part of qualifying is just about getting underway.
And it's all to play for, isn't it? Because whilst on average times the number 99 AMG Team Grouper M Mercedes is quickest, the number 14 2C's car, only 19 thousandths of a second on average times separates those two Mercs at the moment.
It's mad, isn't it? But it illustrates how the balance of performance works so well in GT3 racing, that you can have all of these different configurations of car, and yet you're talking thousandths a second between them. You know, you've got cars on this grid, 6-cylinder normally aspirated engines, 3.9 twin-turbo V8s, 3-litre twin-turbo 6-cylinder, 5.2 normally aspirated V10, 6.3 normally aspirated V8, 4-litre twin-turbo V8,
Yep.
And thousandths of a second split lap times.
Yep, and front engine, mid engine, rear engine, you name it.
Yep. Yeah. So well done, Claude Sermon, who is the technical guru behind all of this. He works out the balance of performance. How he does it, I've got no idea.
Yeah, he's
a genius.
Absolute wizard. Yeah, an absolute wizard, and also a thankless task.
Oh God, yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Like being a football referee, isn't it? You ain't ever going to satisfy everybody.
No, true enough. And so the fast lane open, as I say. We are 20 seconds away as of now from getting the session underway. Queue starts to build at the end of the pit road. And these 15 minutes, assuming we don't get any more dramas of cars in the wall, should fly by.
Absolutely, yep, so it's two Ferraris that are at the front of the queue. The number 61 car looks like the one that's queuing up there first, which is one of the many AF Corsa prepared cars, so that trickles its way out in the hands of Konrad Grundvald, out onto the circuit. David Fuminelli was the second of the cars in the queue. That's Kessel Racing. Both of those have had plenty of success here in the Gulf 12 Hours, the 12th ever running of it, the Lenovo Gulf 12 Hours for this season. Are we going to see another Ferrari win, the first win for a 296 in this event? Might we see a BMW claim its first win? Could it be another Mercedes? They are likely to be the ones, but we've had McLaren's win in the past and we've had Audi's win in the past, and they're all represented here on the grid. We've never had a Porsche win as yet, though.
No, and with all due deference, unlikely this year as they're not fully pro category cars, but who knows, over the course of 12 hours it will be unlikely. But if the pro cars hit trouble, and bearing in mind how Grupper M really did hit trouble very early on last year, you know, anything can happen. So, again, surprisingly, in a sense, perhaps, that we've got relatively few takers early on. But the drivers biding their time, waiting for the moment to go down the pit lane. Try not to get caught up in traffic, but of course the danger is everybody waits, and then you do get caught up in traffic as they all go at once at the tipping point, probably 4 or 5 minutes in. Alessandro Cozzi we have in 25, that was quick early on with Alessio Rivera. David Gussner takes over the family Mercedes. Conrad Grunewald, David Fuminelli, you mentioned. Martin Conrad has gone in the 75 Sun Energy 1 Mercedes, number 46 sets to go, which will now be Valentino Rossi, Nick Yellerly, Dries van Thor's final shot and improving a lap time. Under the hotel out of turn 14 they come. Mark, sorry, yeah.
No, David Fuminelli, I was going to say, is the one that's pressing on this outlap, isn't he? Because he was second out of the pit lane, but is already comfortably ahead of the car of Conrad Grunewald, who is a little bit slower on his outlap. So David Fuminelli is the first of those to trickle their way over the start-finish line. And as the first batch of cars come over the start-finish line, all of a sudden the pit lane starts to empty, and they're starting to come out in droves now.
But what you don't want is to end up getting in the mix of the cars that are on a flying lap, because you're getting in their way and you're not going to be able to do your warm-up lap in quite the same way because you're having to get out of their way. So the strategists on the pit wall need to be looking at the tracker map and knowing where the first wave of cars is ready for releasing their car.
And I think that worked for David Fuminelli because he was over the start-finish line and past the pit lane exit before the next batch of cars all trickled their way out onto the circuit. So David Fuminelli 23.665 through the first sector, and he of course is only one of 2 cars that have gone through that first sector at the moment, but we know that David Fuminelli is quick. The body language of the car tells you he's not leaving a lot out there on his first flying lap.
This is true, and David Fuminelli, very, very rapid Ferrari driver. Just going back to your point about Porsches and Pro-Am, we did have a Pro-Am outright win at Bathurst, didn't we? The Hubble, Schultz, Gunon Mercedes was Pro-Am. So if you've got the right lineup of drivers, it is possible. Right, David Fuminelli then, 2 absolute best in the sectors as he makes the run now down through turn 9. This, I think, will be the target. I'm not necessarily suggesting it's going to stay there all the way. Valentino Rossi has gone in 46, out on track. And the circuit getting busier and busier. Philip Eng is on track. Rob Bell is on track. Marvin Kirchhofer is on track. Mathieu Cairoli is on track. Benjamin Gerser is on track. Richie Stanaway is on track. And we still need a Jules Gounon to go. And we need a 99 Maro Engel Mercedes to go as well, don't we? Here comes Fuminelli then. This will be the target time.
Yep, so Fuminelli over the start-finish line, and target time that David Fuminelli posted is a 1 minute 52.452. That's on combined times, though, or average time, still keeps that Ferrari a little bit further down through the order than otherwise it would wish. We've still got a few cars waiting in the pit lane, which includes Maro Engel, who's just waiting patiently to be given a thumbs up to get out there with just, what, 2/3 of this session remaining now.
Which kind of suggests they're just going for one shot. You know, start-up lap, flying lap, park it. Maybe 2 laps, but no more than that. So the absolute best lap time is that of David Fuminelli. And number 11 Ferrari is there for now, what, in the average, way down. Number 77 drops down onto the ground ready to go. That is the second of the Gruppo M cars. Sets off down the pit road. David Fuminelli going quick again, isn't he? He's done another absolute best in the first sector. So David Fuminelli continues to press on.
Yeah, it certainly looked as though that first lap was quick, and again, as you say, absolute best through the second sector and as well as that first sector. So purple through sector 1, purple through sector 2. The number 11 Ferrari is pressing on, and it might be the last quick lap he gets in as well, because there's a little bit of traffic just up the road from him. The next batch of cars that exit the pit lane are now starting to come into play, but I think for David Fuminelli, he's going to catch them just probably at the end of this lap, because he'll already be threading his way through turn number 14 and up towards the final couple of corners. And yeah, you can just see the traffic just up the road, one of which I think might be the Sky Tempesta number 93 McLaren, but safely through turn number 15, up towards turn number 16. No, David Fuminelli aborts the lap and heads in towards the pit lane. So decided wasn't to be.
Interesting that. So Fuminelli, work done, but still has the fastest lap time of Q4. Down the pit road goes Jules Gounod, ready to go. Mauro Engel's already out on track, so I think now every car that is able has just about taken to the circuit, or is in the next few seconds will have taken to the circuit in the case of Jules. In the number 14, 2C's Mercedes, the team for whom he drives in British GT. Right, the ultimate best lap is now Rob Bell's. So Rob Bell has done a 152.006. That's number 27 McLaren. And what have we got? 8.5 minutes counting.
I was just having a quick look. What they did do was change certainly a front left tyre on David Fuminelli's car when the car came into the pit lane. I'm just looking all the way down towards the pit lane now where the team are based, Kessel Racing, and I think there are some changes of tyres going on that car, so they're going to bolt another set of Pirellis to it and send him back out. Who's on quick laps now out there? Well, Marvin Kirchhofer at the wheel of the Garage 59 number 88 McLaren is going beautifully well, as we keep an eye on at the moment. A flashing of lights that is going on. I think the Sky Tempesta McLaren was getting caught there, but yeah, certainly for Marvin Kirchhofer, very, very quick through the first sector, absolute best, quicker than he's previously gone through the second sector. The car is, what, about 6th, 7th overall at the moment on average times, but Kirchhofer going well.
Yeah, and he's another absolute star, isn't he? Yep. Former single-seater gun, like so many. Career change, McLaren scooped him up and he has delivered. Take the championship, he has been quick within. So though Mauro Engel, from single-seaters to GT cars, DTM, V8 supercars in Australia, and a loyal servant to Mercedes in recent years, coming then up towards the start of the back straight. And who do we have now with the absolute best lap? Marvin Kirchhofer, yes?
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, 1 minute 51.162 from Marvin Kirchhofer, and that means that car now is what, first, second, third, fourth, fifth. Is that 6th on average times at this stage, so good lap time put in from him. The next quick lap time we need to watch out for has just gone over the start-finish line there, and that again was Rob Bell, who put in a very good lap time at the wheel of number 27 Motorsport McLaren and really hoiks that car up through the order. However, we've now got a spin out on circuit. Ooh, crumbs. And an interesting rejoin for the number 88 Garage 59 McLaren of Marvin Kirchhofer.
Well, if he's quick, he can rejoin quickly, can't he? That was a brave move.
It was very, very close, wasn't it? Goodness me.
Yes, yes. Eyes out like chapel hat pegs for those that were coming round the corner, but they all avoided him. So, no drama, it says here. So Marvin Kirchhofer, I'm afraid, wastes the lap, doesn't he, because of that spin. He had just done an absolute best within the first sector as well, but a spin in the second means you can forget that lap. And here is the replay of the spin, which is all self-induced.
He's just gone purple, isn't he, in the sector?
Yeah, I was just saying, he's done an absolute best first sector, but you can forget the lap, and then he managed to just find a McLaren-sized gap in the traffic and went for it. So now, Matteo Cairoli, 1 minute 50.592, fastest in Q4, and that brings number 33 Porsche into the mix. This could well be a dark horse for a good result tomorrow, because Antares Zhao and Tim Heinemann as the other drivers are certainly not slow. Matteo Cairoli, Carrera Cup Italy champion, again knows exactly how to make one of these cars fly.
Yeah, and he was another driver that was at Macau, wasn't he, Matteo Cairoli?
Yes.
In something?
Well, in the wall, I'm afraid, early on in the main race, in the Tsingtao Beer-backed car, which looked good, but I'm afraid it got involved in an incident early on in the main race.
Nicola Marangianelli just gone purple through the first sector at the wheel of the number 51 AF Corsa Ferrari. Now this is a Ferrari 488 that has just gone absolute best through the first sector. Now in terms of where the car is on average times, it's way down through the order, something like 20th on average times, but Marangianelli is working beautifully well at the wheel of it to push on in what is the elder statesman really in terms of cars in the field.
Yeah, I mean, they're still quick in the right hands, aren't they? But as you say, not the latest. The 296 has superseded it, as now Nicola Marangianelli carries on this lap. 18th currently on the session time. So it's Matteo Cairoli. And now Valentino Rossi up to second on the average then. So Valentino Rossi's time is, the average time, 1:51.7. He's 11th in the session, but second on the average, which is a good effort. So right now, with 4 minutes on the clock, it's still going to be a really interesting grid. nice and jumbled, that is for sure, as across the timing line has just gone David Fuminelli once again, and has done an absolute best in the last sector, as Mauro Engel goes top of the times on the average. Lorenzo Ferrari's Mercedes, so to speak, goes fourth on the average as well now. So the times are still being whittled away. Don't forget now the cars at their lightest, because you can't refuel during the session. They've been getting lighter, therefore, as the evening has gone on.
Yeah, the lap time didn't quite come together for Nicola Maringhelli in the end. It was still an improved time, but it hasn't really shuffled the car a great deal up, the number 51 Ferrari, in terms of the average lap times. Now, David Fuminelli at the wheel of the number 11 Kessel Racing Ferrari. We saw him set a quick lap, come into the pit lane. They certainly changed at least one tyre on it from what I could see with the naked eye, but it may well have been that they changed all four. He is out there and flying along again. Now, the car is probably bottom of the top 10 in terms of average times, but absolute best through the first sector for David Fuminelli, as he is looking to try and push on.
Marvin Kirchhofer has to go and see the race director after the session. That might be for his zealotry in rejoining.
I wonder what that's about. See, he's certainly pushing on though, Marvin Kirchhofer, because through turn 2 the car was wiggling around on him, and that's not a slow corner.
No, well, he's got 3 minutes to practice his best innocent who me face before he goes and faces Peter Roberts, the race director.
There was a clutch problem and it just dropped. The clutch disengaged as I was trying to stay out of harm's way.
Objects may seem nearer than they actually are.
Jules Gounon has now brought the number 14 2C's Mercedes. That's second quickest now in terms of combined times. 1 minute 51.733 from him last time through means that that car is now back to second quickest in terms of average times, and has disposed the number 33 Herbert Motorsport Porsche that's in the hands of Matteo Carioli now down to third quickest. Valentino Rossi's number 46 Team WRT BMW is next up, and then it is Lorenzo Ferrari's number 77 Mercedes. Marvin Kirchhofer is rounding out the top 6 at the wheel of the number 88 Garage 59. This is average times, of course, i.e. how the grid should form up, subject to any penalties.
Which, as far as we're aware, we're not staring down the barrel of, which is encouraging. We've got just under 2 minutes of the session to go. Matt Topham's battered Mercedes has returned to the team in the pit lane, so their work now can start. Marvin Kirchhofer, I rather think he's not necessarily going to improve again, but as some of the cars picked, including Nicola Maringhelli, it's hard to, well, that's the end of the session for that car, isn't it? 90 seconds to go, won't get an outlap in, so that's done. So on the average, it is Mercedes, Porsche, BMW, Mercedes, McLaren. Good mix in the top 3 rows of the grid.
Yep, and where's the Audi? Way down. It is an AM car, so we wouldn't expect it to be right the way up there. But it's 17 in the AM category at the moment, and is probably something like late teens in terms of overall.
I'm trying to think how much GT3 racing, if any, Greg Gilbert has done. He's a very experienced GT4 campaigner and very successful.
Yeah.
GT3 is a bit of a step up for him.
Well, we saw that last year, didn't we, with some of the Santelec drivers having been racing full all season in GT4. They brought them into this to experience GT3 for the first time, and they were certainly not slow at all. We can still see Valentino Rossi is pushing hard at the wheel of the number 46 WRT BMW. He is heading through the first sector currently, having just completed another lap. The car is 4th quickest overall on average times at the moment, but Valentino has already given up the best part of 3/4 of a second compared to others just in the first sector. So that particular lap, now we're heading towards just a few seconds to go, is already unravelling for him.
True enough then. So with the flag imminent, people electing to make their way down the pit lane, work done. 2 BMWs together at WRT from the pits.
Yeah, Matteo Carioli is now out of the car and walks very coolly over towards the garage. Good job done. Gloves come off, and congratulated by the team as well. So there's one that's finished the session.
Yeah, good lap time, wasn't it, from Matteo Carioli? Only driver into the 1 minute 50 second bracket, 1 minute 50.6 less than in reality, and that is, oh no, there was another 1 minute 50 there, and who was that from? David Fuminelli did a 1 minute 50.7, but those are only drivers into the 1 minute 50 second bracket in that session.
So we kind of have a grid. I mean, I know there are still people pushing on, but with limited improvements in sectors, you might find, for example, Valentino Rossi ends up bailing at the end of the lap rather than going for a time. Right up against the wall, though, there goes Philippe Eng's BMW, but they're down in the sectors, so there's not really anything to be achieved by completing the lap. He will do so, just to tick one off. Bring some data on tyre wear maybe back, but now the cars go to Parc Fermé conditions in front of the pit boxes. The checkered flag is out, and pretty much everybody is done. They've either taken the flag on the track or in the pit lane. But it's been a long evening with the stoppages, but an interesting one, that's for sure.
Yep, very much so. And I think that the surprise for me through all of that is, you know, hats off to Herbert Motorsport. Antares at O, Tim Heinemann, Matteo Carioli. Generally, as a Pro-Am combination, we knew the Porsches were quick in free practice, but you just assume that maybe they're pushing hard and others aren't. But to see a Porsche up there third overall and a Pro-Am car ahead of a good chunk of pros, impressive performance, I would say, from that one.
Yeah, I mean, Carioli is doing what he did at Spa. You know, he is a fantastic Porsche driver. That just because it's an AM car doesn't mean, or a Pro-Am entry rather, doesn't mean it's any less a Porsche than if it were in the Pro class. You know, it's not the spec of the car that differs, it's the driver grading.
Yeah.
He is a pro, doesn't matter who he's with, he's still the pro, and he will drive absolutely flat out. So Carioli, when he's behind the wheel of that car, will make it sing. But as I say, he's got two quick co-drivers. Antares Al has really come on a pace over the last few years by doing more European and American racing, and he's been a quick learner and he's a rapid driver, and Tim Heinemann's got a good CV as well. Alan?
Yeah, just to say, I'm with Matteo now. That was good. The team is celebrating down here, and so should you be.
Yeah, well, I'm happy for them, obviously. So it was not an easy qualifying, I have to say, because around turn 5 it was quite slippery because of the Mercedes before. So not easy to choose the right line. So I think I obviously lost some tenths over there. So I could manage, you know, that was the most important. I was able to only put one lap together, basically, because in the following lap and in the one before I had some traffic, so...
Just as well, it was a good one then.
Yeah, I mean, I was really committed for that lap, so I said, okay, or now or never again, so... No, it was definitely a very, very enjoyable lap. The team is obviously doing an excellent job preparing and giving us such a quick car. So yeah, tomorrow is going to be for sure an interesting day, but we should be competitive.
Well done, many congratulations, and thanks for having a chat to us. No doubt we'll speak to Matteo tomorrow as well, but very happy scenes down here in his garage.
Yep, and rightly so. They should be very happy indeed. They're about a quarter of a second quicker on average times compared to the next best in Pro-Am. Stopping out on circuit and not even completing the in-lap is the number 26, One Racing Ferrari. So clearly something has happened with that car in the hands of Rames Asman that has prevented that car from making its way back around the circuit and in towards the Parc Ferme area. No obvious signs. You can see the heat haze coming out the back of the car, but all is not well at the moment. I think every other car as good as made it back or is just in the process of coming into what is becoming an ever busier pit lane there. The cars, of course, will need to be re-prepped by all the mechanics, ready in advance of tomorrow. For others, they've got more important things to do than just re-prep the car. They've got to rebuild the car in the case of 76 because of the accident that befell Matt Topham in Q3. And we certainly know that it is highly likely now that Car Collection Motorsport will not be back out. So the order at the moment in terms of the qualifying we will run through shortly, because I think on the graphic there we can see Benji Gota at the top of the times, but the time is suggesting that is not quite as quick as the car behind, Matteo Carioli, who did set the fastest time in that session. So I think there's an interloper amongst the graphic that you can see there, because it was the Herbert Motorsport Porsche that was fastest of all, from David Fuminelli's Kessel Racing Ferrari that was second quickest. That was the only two cars that managed to get sub 1 minute 51, and then third quickest, I think that's when it would be Benji Gota that was there third quickest in that session, despite the fact that he's showing at the top of the times at this stage. Alessandro Cozzi now, of course, was next up ahead of those that you can just see there scrolling through. Of course, a couple of cars not starting that session. We know of the incident that befell Matt Topham in the 76 Mercedes, so that did not start that session, and Car Collection Motorsport probably out for the weekend now at the wheel of the number 12 Porsche. So lots to try and work through this evening. It's going to be a long old night for the teams, David. It'd be a long old night, I would have thought, also for a chunk of the circuit staff as well, because they've probably still got some barriers to repair over the course of this evening to make sure that where we saw Stefano Constantini hit those barriers, that they will be all fully sorted. There you can see 3 very happy looking drivers. They will start the 13th running of the Gulf 12 Hour, the 12th edition of it here at Yas Marina, the Lenovo Gulf 12 Hours. Maro Engo, Lucas Stoltz and Michael Grenier will start the Mercedes-AMG Group M car from pole position tomorrow. Big smiles all round for them, but that's only part of the work done. That's just qualifying. You've got 12 hours to try and keep that car at the sharp end tomorrow. We might be able to get some reaction from some of the drivers down there in the pit lane with Alan.
I hope so, because all 3 of them are here. I might as well make the most of this. Absolutely perfect job, Mara.
Yeah, I mean, great car from the team, I have to say. The balance was really, really good. And obviously my teammates teed that up nicely, and I was happy to finish off the job in Q4.
Many congratulations. Well done. We'll speak to you tomorrow down on the grid. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Alan. So if you've got any of the drivers that you can catch up with down there, please feel free before we then start to close things off for tonight, and look forward to a busy and long day tomorrow, Alan.
I feel really sorry for speaking to the drivers down here. I'm just going to walk away from Parc Fermé. There is a speaker directly behind Parc Fermé, and it's on a delay. So Maro did a really good job of talking. I'm probably more used to it than drivers will be. I think it might be slightly difficult to speak to the drivers in Parc Fermé, because when you're speaking and hearing yourself back with a delay, it can be a bit difficult. So don't hold your breath.
Right, okay. Well, if you do get the odd one or two to chip into, feel free. But I think we're probably about done for this evening. So it sounds as though we are ready to pack the cars away for the evening. We're ready to pack ourselves away for the evening and look forward to what is going to be an intriguing Lenovo Gulf 12 Hours here at Yas Marina Abu Dhabi. David, qualifying didn't quite go to plan, but we've got there, and an exciting grid it looks.
It's a nice jumble grid, absolutely, and it is going to make for, quite definitely, another fascinating Gulf 12 Hours, the Lenovo Gulf 12 Hours for this year. But, of course, a championship decider in Intercontinental GT Challenge powered by Pirelli. It's going to be a relatively short night before the teams have to be back here ready to go racing, but it's going to be well worth it, because it should be a cracking race tomorrow. Can't wait.
So that's it then for today. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back tomorrow for the Lenovo Gulf 12 Hours. Goodbye.
GT4. The Groves. It could only be GTC. Back for the 2020.